Let's make a splash, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got more EGL Summer Showdown action here, and we're going right into the playoff stage with quarterfinals. Our only one-day show of quarterfinals, but we've got 4 exciting matches. 2 will be on stream today. The others will be taking place either off stream or, in the case of the Zoos and the AoE Esports, they'll be taking place sometime later this week, as they'll be figuring out a reschedule. But, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rafa. I am joined once again by Jolly and Rebel Fox here, and we kind of want to walk down memory lane. So I'm going to open up the floor, starting with you, Jolly. In yesterday's group stage, for those at home who missed the action from our last day of groups, what is one of your favorite memories that we had from yesterday's matches?
Probably, I mean, the first thing that I think of regarding yesterday's matches was the first best of 3 we had between Resolve and C9 Amateur. And honestly, it was XU on the Graves in the first game, and then the Lee Sin in the last game. I mean, yeah, Pup the Shotgun, just absolutely devastating. But you know what? Also, within that match, there was the turnaround with Resolve, who picked up that one game, and it was the Jace. Actually, it was PCL on that Jace who just demolished the confidence that XU had in that second game.
And going for you, Rebel Fox, and Jolly already covered a lot about the Resolve Cloud9 Amateur game, although Cloud9 Amateur did take that 2-1. It was nice to see from Resolve to be able to show, you know, no pun intended, some resolve and being able to withstand and put up a game performance and being able to talk to the players afterwards that they are looking forward to showing the improvement that they have been working on through the entire summer split going into UGP Tier 1. For you, Rebel Fox, I want to... Can you pick out a specific moment from yesterday's AoE Maryville University series where you were a big fan?
Yeah, can you remember the moment at the closer to the end of game number 1 where Spyrax dove mid-tower to find a 1-for-1 kill? Do you remember my reaction to the both of you? Where I was like, what's Spyrax? Losing it. It was tragic. Yep. It was the beginning of the end because it led to that overextension into the base, ended up flopping game 1, and they ended up losing 2-0 in what was a very competitive series. But that moment it was nothing but grief-stricken trauma for me, and you two laughing because of my reaction at the time. But that was probably my favorite moment. AoE versus Maryville was an absolute banger of a series, and that moment specifically was one of my favorites too, to point out.
Oh my god, I mean, I said favorite moment, not, you know, most traumatizing moment. I mean, for me and Jolly now, that's probably a favorite moment just to witness you in grief and pain. Yes. But, you know, I would like to add on that RBN's final Diana Moonfall Flash was absolutely captivating. Capturing 4 people, scooping them up in Game 2 and winning out that series. Shoutouts to Peyton there, as they will be taking on Zeus Gaming later on in the week. But we need to go back and see the rest of the group results and see how we got to this point, ladies and gentlemen. For the EGL Summer Showdown, we had 3 grueling stages of groups. And in the end, you know, Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D all concluded with the following seeds from each of the teams here. Wildcard, Red, and EGP coming out of Group A. TSM Amateur, Cloud9 Amateur coming out of Group B. 100 Thieves next, and AoE from Group C, and then Zoos and Supernova from Group D. As Dignitas Mirage and Supernova did play a tiebreaker for that second seed. Supernova won. In fact, go check out Maddie Moo's Twitter at, I think it's at LolMaddie, if I'm not mistaken, where he stole a Rift Herald with a Lilia Swirling Seed. I also recommend using turning on the volume on your headphones, because there is a bit of a volume spike from the jungler, Supernova himself. And now we are going into our first day of playoffs for quarterfinals. And for the matches that we have, and I'm going to go to you for this first, Jolly. I know we're covering 2 quarterfinals today, but there's another quarterfinals that is happening later this week that I think we're going to be really keen to see who comes out on top between Zeus and AoE.
Yeah, that's, I mean, honestly, AoE wasn't favored necessarily in the matchup yesterday. And so to make it out here over MU, pulling Zeus into something like that, that's a high mountain to climb. Not gonna lie there for AoE, but it should be an exceptional matchup because AoE has constantly been more and more impressive as the season goes on. And Zeus just has already really made a name for themselves here. They're a mainstay at the top of leaderboards in collegiate amateur championships.
And Rebel Fox, I know the matchup that you also wanted to see, even though it might not be the quote-unquote strongest teams left out of the 8 that we have here in our playoffs bracket is actually between 100 Thieves Next and Supernova.
I think both these teams have slowly risen up as what I would consider to be dark horse teams to try to capture some of the final spots going into Proving Grounds, especially 100 Thieves now, after having captured wins against both the combination of AoE, who's one of our favorites coming into the season, and Maryville, who looked so good inside of Risen. To beat both of them inside that group to take the #1 seed, I think is nothing short of impressive. The path they have to take also is paved with glory potentially to come through, because they'll have to face through Wildcard Red and C9AM if they surpass it. And Supernova's the exact same way, where Supernova's roster has actually really impressed me as the season has gone on. Now they get that same chance where either one of them is running into one of our 2 already qualified Proving Grounds teams to potentially put them out and immediately secure your spot into that Proving Grounds by making that finals.
Yeah, not to mention 100 Thieves Next also joining the roster of LCS-affiliated amateur teams that have just kind of risen from the ashes of their performance in spring, where we look at teams like Cloud9 Amateur, 100 Thieves Next. These 2 teams, you know, they were kind of middle of the pack. They were okay. They had decent... Cloud9 Amateur had a decent showing at... Unified Grand Prix, as they were able to make it past the first elimination round, and then into the Giant Slayer Gauntlet as well. But then they didn't make it into the Proving Grounds. TSM Amateur wasn't even formed at the time. And for 100 Thieves Next as well, they didn't make it into the Tier 1s following the Tier 2 events. But now, they're fighting for a chance to be... All 3 of them, alongside Evil Genius's Prodigies, are fighting for playoff spots or continuing after quarterfinals. But we have to dive into our first matchup of the day, which is going to be Wildcard Red taking on Cloud9 Amateur. And Rebel Fox, you're very at home for this, because over at Risen, this was the championship finals matchup between these 2 teams.
It was extremely exciting at the time, especially because it went to a full 5 games, which was amazing. At the time, I think C9 was surging. They had just really come into their own inside of that tournament alone. They were beating down everybody. They were coming off of a 5-game series against Maryville that went the distance, and they ended up taking that one into Wildcard Red, and it ended up being extremely exciting between the 2 of them, even though Wildcard ended up coming through, also securing their spots in Proving Grounds, which I think was the one thing that was also really cool. So now we get another chance, one more little kind of slugfest between these 2 before we end up heading toward that Proving Grounds to see who gets to claim their right to continue. And more importantly, I guess something that's kind of on the back burner here is like, one of these 2 teams that's already qualified for Proving Grounds is now dropping out and will be a bottom 4 team inside of these playoffs and place 5th through 8th, which is not an expectation for either of these 2 teams.
The other thing, too, to keep in mind is that for both of these teams, that this is really 2 goals in mind. For Wildcard Red, they're looking for the Grand Slam of the Tier 2s. They're trying to go for the ultimate dominance in Proving Grounds and taking all 3 Tier 2 tournaments crowns under their belt. But for Cloud9 Amateur here, Jolly, it is all about revenge, as they were so close, bringing Wildcard Red to a Game 5 in the last Tier 2 finals.
They only have 3 games in this one. No best of 5, unfortunately, yet. That gets a little bit later in the bracket, so a little bit less time. But you're absolutely right, Rafa. I mean, this is a rivalry that we have been waiting to re-see, and there tend to be a lot of these within this this collegiate amateur community. But honestly, with the growth that we've seen within these amateur teams, specifically the new pro amateur teams, they have just provided so much more, even, you know, for people that are watching, like, Academy. I gotta say, I've got so much more love for the amateur teams, not just because I'm more involved with it, but the amount of growth that these kids show is absolutely insane. So I'm so excited for this one. I think a lot of people going in are going to have really high expectations for Wildcard Red, but honestly, I'm going to have a lot of eyes here on C9 Amateur because of how well they performed yesterday.
Yeah, and I kind of want to take a step back for this Wildcard Red team and give a proper introduction for audiences that are coming in to the space and they have never seen Wildcard Red or the rest of the dominance that they might have been showing for the entire summer here. So, to give you a lowdown on this roster, you've got Brandini in the top lane, Winston in the jungle, Bradley in the mid lane, Arrow, that's right, you know, former KT Arrow, who then had some time over at Optic Gaming in the LCS a couple years ago, and then, of course, Adaption in the support role. Now, for those that are familiar with, you know, international League of Legends esports, they're going to be familiar with, obviously, Arrow, the big name coming into Wildcard Red. And then for those that have watched Academy or LCS before, they might recognize Brandini, a former top laner for, I want to say, TSM and CLG at some points, respectively. And then Winston, of course.
Brandini was 100 Thieves Academy, 100 Thieves, EG Academy, CLG Academy, and Echo Fox and TSM Academy. So yeah. Almost everything.
Almost everything. And then Winston, not as storied, but a TSM Academy jungler back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, or either 2019 or 2020 for him, respectively. So then let's take a look at the two players that are kind of fresh in the semi-pro scene. And Jolly, when we talk about Wildcard Red, we have to talk about Bradley, because as a collegiate talent from Bethany Esports, and also just being a powerhouse mid laner during the summer split, he has come online.
Absolutely. And he's got a lot of confidence as a player. Viewers who have seen him previously on Bethany, that generally the player that they were rooting for was Bradley, and a really down-to-earth, nice guy. I got the chance to meet him during the St. Louis trip.
He's really
And,
chill.
you know, you kind of have this expectation, especially with the Bethany crew, of this meme sort of team. And so that's the kind of style of player that Bradley really is. He's kind of like a memey guy, but then you meet him and he's really genuine, he's really nice, and there's a reason that he pulls out these big memes. You know, there's a reason that he takes into the mid lane what he does, because he is an absolutely exceptional player and really, really good about communication on this team. So definitely going to be one with a lot of fans in the crowd here on this first matchup.
The other thing, too, to consider for Bradley is just I mean, you talked about it just a couple minutes ago, Jolly, the amount of growth that players, especially from the collegiate and the semi-pro scene, have undergone within just a few months, because, you know, Bradley, before coming on to this Wildcard Red roster, Bradley was known as CP Freeze, and I'm trying... Honestly, the team that he was formerly on in semi-pro is escaping me right now, but I remember that he was, you know, competing on various teams throughout the scouting ground circuit. Not many eyes were on him in terms of the mainstream view here in the semi-pro scene, but, you know, several coaches had been keeping an eye on him, and then when Wildcard had their tryouts, they looked at Bradley like, man, this you got to get this guy back on the roster. But someone who is familiar with the Wildcard organization, as they were on that roster during the spring split, is Daption here, Rebel Fox.
I think Daption was awesome because he got risen up from some of the developmental stuff, and Wildcard bring him in. And if you look across everything that had come through, you see names like Arrow, super important. You think the team's built on him. And then Bradley's had his mainstay in competitive. Winston's had his mainstay in competitive. One we didn't mention was also Big Dokla heading into Academy and has been smurfing on TLA before he got replaced by Brandini, which didn't even take a beat off of this team because they're just that incredible. And I want to give a shout out to Morgan for that, because that had to be a feat of intelligence. But the one thing that people don't know is, like, Daption compared to those players in Namestake probably doesn't parry much, but Daption is an insanely good player out of the bottom lane, was smurfing, but well before any kind of laning partner like Arrow to that prestige whatsoever. And the reason why this bot lane works so well is because Daption can adapt really heavily to what Arrow wants to do and what the team wants to play to very heavily. They've got strong solo lanes. They've got a strong scaling bot lane. It's not easy to find a specific style, so Daption just plays everything. He's able to be on the map when he needs to be. He's able to make plays in the bottom side to help get himself ahead, that kind of thing. Daption's like just kind of versatility alongside Winston as well in the jungle. But again, those two completely kind of make this team into how dangerous it is, because they've got three insanely good weapons to use at any point, and fitting around those is not simple. So I got to give a ton of props to those two's versatility within this Wildcard Red roster, and making sure all of them get everything that they need to make themselves work as well as they do.
And Daption, too, you just got... I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. Like, there's a big reason that people have so much focus, because you've got names like Zenith, names, you know, teams that don't even have players anymore, teams that have completely disbanded, and then instantly Wildcard Red. That's saying something.
I mean, coming from Spring Split, they barely, I think, squeaked in to Proving Grounds before... I don't remember what seed they were exactly. I think it was a 14th seed, 13th seed going into the Proving Grounds tournament in April. And at that time, that roster had the mentioned members like Quacker. You also had Gluten-Free Panda, formerly of Echo Fox. Mid laner was Xeno. And then Team Luke, who is now on Evil Geniuses Academy, and then Daption, right? And even though that roster at the time was not the strong, nowhere near the strongest of the pack, that was a dark horse in itself. As my goodness, like some of those compositions that they were pulling out and the creativity, now that they've been able to pull out star-studded individuals in this roster, Wildcard Red, there is a reason why that this team is being feared as the #1 team coming out of semi-pro, going into the Proving Grounds tournament in September for summer. But, you know, on the flip side, you know, we can't give any disrespect to Cloud9 Amateur. They did lose the last time that they fought up against Wildcard Red, but they are looking for revenge, and we're going to have to see how everything plays out, because I do believe that Kangas and Joshi are on standby and ready to take us away for Game 1 of this quarterfinal series.
You bet we're ready, Rafa. We got the rematch, Joshi, in our round of 8. Wildcard Red taking on Cloud9 Amateur coming up right now. I'm so excited to be on the desk with you here casting the games, because, man, this went the distance in the Risen Finals.
It did, and honestly, as we look at it today, I think we're in for one treat of the series, right? We've been seeing so much coming out. We've already highlighted Wixie Breezy versus Era Adaption, and I think it's going to be one of the most explosive bot lanes that we've seen in a long time.
Oh yeah, the bot lane, the mid lane matchup's huge, because originally going into this one, you would expect to see heavily favored over to Bradley's side. If you've been watching Bradley's career recently, he's been popping off. But Captain Shrimps, just in his group, he was getting the better of mid laners like Doxa as well. So I think that mid lane matchup's going to be spicy as well. A lot to get excited for, but we are ready to hop into Champ Select for game number 1 in this best of 3 series. So Joshi, some things to keep in mind here as we're getting into pick and ban. The last time these teams played against each other, it wasn't the Risen Finals, different patch, different meta, but there was a heavy emphasis put on a couple of specific champions. One of them being Diana, another one being Camille, actually rising in prominence, getting Cloud9 both of their wins there. So those are 2 champions that I'm going to be looking at specifically. Also, Viego, I think, was played in all 5 games for Wildcard Red. So already these teams have done their homework.
It makes sense too, right? With Speedo actually being like one of the first people who was really continuing to play Camille even before a lot of other teams started to. It's been one of his classic champions for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it come out at least once or twice during this series, but we already see the Galio taken away, which does limit some of the effectiveness of the Camille, because we all know how strong that combination is for engaging.
Yeah, and they did put Captain Shrimps on that in one of their games. It was banned in the next game, and they still played the Camille regardless. So let's see if Wildcard Red want to take it off the table. You know, it's not really like blue oneable for Cloud9 Amateur, so I don't think that they're too concerned for it right now, and you still can't draft around it in the first phase. But here we go. This is the focus from both teams. Cloud9 Amateur on the blue side ban away the Viego, Lucian, and the Thresh, so focusing a little bit on that bot side, whereas Wildcard Red take away still the Rumble. And now Rumble's kind of been dropping out of priority. Xinjiang makes more sense, but that leaves Lee Sin up.
It does, and you have to remember that XG has been playing a lot of Graves, one of the few people that have been continuing to bring it out, and they are going to be prioritizing this Lee Sin over the Gwen because it is a little bit more flexible. We say that now, but you have to remember, Bradley is probably the best mid-Gwen player that we really see. He's one of the few players that will actually bring it into the mid lane fairly consistently, and so against most teams, Gwen isn't this flexible, but against Wildcard Red in specific, you can bring it into all the different lanes.
Now, we did actually see in the Risen Finals, Cloud9 Amateur were able to take 1 game off of it. But other than that 1 loss, I believe, just looking at Gamepedia here, 100% win rate for Bradley on the Gwen in Amateur. So that's pretty scary. Let's see what they want to pair into that. They lock in the LeBlanc. Interesting answer. And the Ziggs has made it through. I actually would really like this.
I know you're a big fan of this Bomb Rat, right? You just pick it up, you have a lot of opportunities to play very safely in the bottom lane, and I like it alongside the LeBlanc in particular, because I was talking about it yesterday. This Ziggs allows so much dynamism on the rest of the map, because you have one spot just kind of locked down. You know there's no action going on here, let's do something on the rest of the map, and LeBlanc, very dynamic champion, has a lot of opportunities to just take people down from the fog of war. But we also see the big counter pick that we've been seeing emerge up against the Ziggs.
Now, we haven't seen Kalista win every lane against Ziggs, but in
Not
theory,
yet, yeah.
the idea is there that you can just bully the Ziggs around in lane and not allow him to get onto your tower, not allow him to get onto the plates and get those early gold swings in your favor. And when you pair with the Leona, even more kill pressure. Now they get another round of bans here. They're taking away the Camille. They could also take away some more defensive supports that you can pair with the Ziggs as well. But I already like that focus on the Camille. That could become a little scary. Camille plus Ziggs combo.
We're seeing a couple of these counter picks top lane to the Gwen that have kind of emerged as these things that can do at least okay into it. The Camille does a good job because they ignore the extra resistances provided by Gwen's W, simply because you do a lot of true damage. But we're also seeing XU's champion pool kind of being limited right now with the Graves and the Olaf, both things that I know he's played in the past. And it says to me that this Lee Sin likely going over to XU based on his performance that we saw yesterday.
Yeah, and also the bans coming from Wildcard Red, they assume the same. They're banning away, like you said, the solo laners. And they lock into Jace. Now, technically blind Jace. Pretty bold move right there.
It is flexible, again, right? It's not something we see very often where Jace goes into the mid lane, but it is very playable there, and this would be interesting. We did see the Fiora come out as a mid laner played yesterday. I believe it was Spyrax, right? And it was, it had mixed success. It did its job for the most part, but it wasn't necessarily something that was going to get them a win. So with the Fiora coming through, it does throw a bit of a question mark to Wildcard Reds. Like, where do you want to throw your solo laners? Because we want to chase them around.
Yeah, and Cloud9 Amateur's overall team compositional identity, it feels like a little bit of split push. They still have some hard engage with the Alistar as well. I guess, honestly, he might be playing more of a peel kind of role here against what Wildcard Red is drafting. Maybe they're looking to play through side lanes, just get the Ziggs around the map and take objectives, but once it comes down to bigger objectives like the Baron, we'll see how they operate with their composition. Wildcard Red, much more standard as they lock in the Diana last pick here. Surprising that made it all the way through, but hey, AP Jungler, still top of the meta right now.
It makes sense, too. I really like this composition coming out from Wildcard Red because Cloud9 Amateur are showing a very effective potential 1-3-1 style composition with the Ziggs in the mid lane, Fiora and LeBlanc in the side lanes. And Wildcard Red, they have the engage tools to just kill you in the mid lane, right? You have Leona, you have Diana, you have the Kalista. All of these are so good at getting in on top of characters like the Ziggs, and it will make Cloud9 Amateurs play throughout this later stages of the game a little bit more difficult to execute. So I really like what Wildcard Red have done, and I'm really excited to see Bradley's Jace in the mid lane.
Yeah, Bradley plays everything. It's kind of ridiculous. Looking at his most recent games, Jace isn't even on here. So far on Gamepedia, we only have up through Risen and then the first 2 games of EGL. So we don't have all the games from group stage. Maybe he did play it in there and we just didn't catch it on broadcast. But out of his last 14 games that have been recorded, he's played 11 different champions, Joshi. That is absolutely insane. Bradley plays everything.
Yeah, now he's bumping up to 12 in 15 games, right? It's impossible to ban this guy out. It is so hard to draft against Wildcard Red because of how flexible so many of their players are. And it's going to be really tough for Cloud9 to come and try and take games off of this team. But if there's a team that can do it, I think Cloud9 is on that list of teams that are going to be threatening Wildcard Red. So I'm going to be paying a special attention right now to this mid lane. Captain Shrimps versus Bradley. We set this up last time that we saw Captain Shrimps, where you and I were casting him, where Doxa was the big bad that Captain Shrimps needed to take down, and he rose to the occasion. Now Bradley is this huge monster in the mid lane that Captain Shrimps needs to do the David versus Goliath a second time.
Let's see if Captain Shrimps is up to the task here. Cloud9 Amateur, they lost to Wildcard Red in the Risen Grand Finals. It went to full 5 games, and it was a close one. Now in a best of 3, let's see what they can do against a team that is looking for the three-peat, for the Grand Slam. Check their social media. They're confident that they're going to take the entire event, let alone just this match. We're loaded on to Summoner's Rift to figure out which team will get the better of their rivals here at EGL Round of 8. So to set some basics expectations here, Joshi, we've highlighted the mid lane matchup. Is this where we need to put our eyes also early on in the game? Because when I look at LeBlanc and Jace, I do see a volatile matchup.
It is a very volatile matchup, and you're noticing that they both took teleport here, so we're not going to necessarily see the same amount of just raw aggression because neither of them have the ignite, but it does lend a little bit more power later on in the game and the dynamism that we were referring to. So I think we got to pay a lot of attention here because it is kind of whoever goes in first and actually jumps on the other one is going to be at a little bit of risk of getting jumped right on back, because once you use that and the damage, if it doesn't land, it's so easy for the other person to just turn it right on its head. So it's a little bit of a game of chicken between these two, a lot of positioning games going through, and you're going to be watching them use it on each other whenever they walk into the minion wave.
In the isolated matchup, 100% agree. When I do look, though, at Captain Shrimps and XU in particular, LeBlanc has a little more gank setup for the Lee Sin, plus its mix of AP and AD damage. So I might be favoring Cloud9 slightly here when you consider the junglers intervening in this mid lane matchup. But, of course, that just means we got to track the jungle pathing, where they're going to decide to put their pressure early on, both starting on the bot sides.
Almost like we always talk about the junglers, Kangas, because they just have so much agency early on in the game.
It's like it's an important role in League of Legends.
You know, all the junglers are going to be listening to just like, no, this is the weak role. You don't have any change over the lanes, but we do see a bit of trading. Not really going to result in a whole lot due to both of them having their aftershock. But I definitely agree with what you said earlier, Kangas, where Lee Sin and LeBlanc should have a bit of an advantage in my mind due to the fact that Lee Sin is just such a better brawler with the extra attack speed on his passive up against the Diana, who typically needs a couple levels in order to get more points and more AP into all the ratios for her damage.
An interesting pathing right now from XU. He goes right towards the top side. He goes from buff to Raptors to top. Winston spotted on the red buff, so XU knows that he's going to be a full camp behind right now, but he will be a little faster to jump on top side if Brandini continues shoving up. Let's see if XU wants to go for it. No, he just goes right for the camp. I thought maybe this would be the fabled 3 buff into gank setup, but XU not going for it right now.
He's also going to get spotted out because we see Brandini warded this early, very smart, knowing that he's going to have to push as the Gwen into the Fiora, and it's going to prevent XU from being able to walk into the top side. And we're seeing that based on where Winston was, XU is changing up his pathing a little bit. He's backing away, but he is going to get spotted. This is going to tell both teams where the other jungler is. If Winston
This is aggressive as hell.
This is very aggressive.
Winston's just walking into a Lee Sin right now, and he's going to go for it. No, XU just says, I got the wolf, and I'm Lee Sin, level 3, fighting the Diana 1v1. Winston's got Conqueror, but that's a Lee Sin, baby. I don't know why you're invading him. First blood over to
Bradley
XU.
has no mana.
Bradley tries to join in. He's doing what he can, get some damage down. XU's got the shield, though. Oh, the safeguard. Captain Shrimps gets the kill, and too early to Cloud9.
What did we just say? We said Lee Sin is going to win a lot of these early duels going up against the Diana. You got better base damages, and Winston opts into the fight anyway. Bradley tries to bail him out, and it just ends up being this huge lead going over to Cloud9 Amateur, because not only are XU and Captain Shrimps both getting kills, they're both getting assists on the other one. So we'll take a look at this again, and I have a lot of questions coming in for Winston. He's one of our better junglers coming into Proving Grounds right now, but this
is
was a
cocky.
decision that
This is just
me,
cocky as hell.
right? Yeah,
you don't win this
supposed to
matchup level 3 as Diana. Like, I don't know why you're trying to do this.
Yeah, you don't win the smite either because Lee Sin has the XQ on the Q, and Captain Shrimp's faster to rotate. His wave is pushed in, but it's not yet under the turret. He has time to move without losing anything, whereas Bradley, I mean, he's able to get here, but you're still not going to win these brawls against the double-buffed XU Lee Sin. We've seen how good this guy is.
All right, interesting decision-making from Winston there. Puts Wildcard Red on the back foot now in game number 1, early game. 4 minutes, 40 seconds in, and about 1,000 gold lead, just under for Cloud9 Amateur. The gold on the jungler and the mid laner. We were talking about the importance of this mid 2v2, and now already Cloud9 Amateur off to the races.
They should be in a good position as well to look for this upcoming Mountain Dragon. It's coming up right now, but we aren't seeing them move towards it just quite yet. I feel like it's the kind of thing where you need to be more confident in your bottom lane position, because while we just saw that disastrous skirmish for Wildcard Red, we also have to note that because they have such good information on the junglers, Brandini and Arrow in particular have so much extra CS.
Ooh, Captain Shrimps, he could look for a 1v1 here. No, not going to fully commit to it.
Didn't
Doesn't have the
W,
cooldowns yet. Yeah. But Bradley does take the worst of that trade, and Breezy's roamed up as well. XU's even in the area. Bradley has flash. He's going to have to blow it here if Breezy wants to commit to this. Captain Shrimps takes a lot of damage, though. It might just be false hope.
Go.
Bradley's going to retreat back over to Winston. Oh, no! Breezy failing the combo! That's not a great look.
That's a ping diff, man. Oh, that's brutal. See, that definitely should have at least gotten the flash out of Bradley, but not even getting that just means that this is a lot of time that Breezy's spending here where he is not helping out Wixie. Ultimate top lane.
Brandini's going to 1v1 here. Throws the Ignite down. Ultimate lands, but it is reposted.
Well, at least Speedo is going to be surviving here, but they are going to be giving up the flash, and with the pressure that Brandini is giving and the fact that we saw Breezy in the mid lane, it's going to be giving Wildcard Red the confidence to go for this dragon because Arrow and Wixie were isolated for so long. Arrow gets an easy push in, they get it underneath the turret, and Ziggs can't safely follow Callista. Callista will turn around and kill you, so it is going to be a dragon going over to Wildcard, and we're equalizing a lot of the early deficit that we saw from the double kill, but it's not quite in their favor yet.
Not quite. The gold lead's still owned by Cloud9 Amateur, but if Wildcard Red keep playing like this, they will bring it back right now. They have been playing slightly smarter games so far. Bradley's still staying safe in this mid lane matchup right here, despite giving away a kill to LeBlanc and XU picking one up. We haven't seen Cloud9 Amateur actually capitalize on that. Now, it's only been a couple minutes, so let's give them some time before we really give them a report card on how they've played out this early game since picking up those early kills, because right now, feels like XU just wants to get back to farming.
It makes sense. You got to make sure you get all the gold that you can, but I also want to highlight something that Bradley has chosen to do, which is fairly typical, but we'll get back to that.
Oh, wait, Speedo's in a 1v1 right now. Brandini does not have teleport or ignite. If he goes down, this is pretty big, but he gets to the safety of his turret. XU misses the Sonic Wave, unfortunate. But now Winston cashes him out. Only level 5 Diana, so not going to have a lot of lockdown here. XU can just run away. Safeguards to Speedo, and Winston still wants this? All right, he's got his Conqueror proc. Does XU take this? They're going back in. Speedo follows up.
Oh, he gets 6!
XU hit level 6 off of the minion wave, and because of that, the outplay comes through. Winston, the burn, the red buff.
One
not
more.
Gonna be quite
Oh,
enough.
God.
A double kill to Speedo.
He hit level 6 in the middle of the fight, Kangas. What do you do against that? Winston had to be so close to level 6 himself, and the difference of the ultimate ends up being the difference between these. That is absolutely insane. Now they're going to reward themselves. This is important. You don't just want to get the kills. The kills are nice, but taking your opponent off the map in order to pick up these objectives is even nicer. Bradley and Shrimps is going to be disengaging. It should be
Arrow's going up here. Yeah, too late. I think Arrow was roaming up to try and contest that Rift Herald, but Cloud9 Amateur already got it. And yeah, he gets level 6 because he just sticks around, goes up to the minion wave here as we take a look at the replay. Really well played from XU.
I'm also impressed with Brandini from just like walking away from that, knowing he doesn't need to do anything, but XU just like walks up, he's got the red buff, he gets a little bit of HP back because of it.
Boom, one minion, that's all it took.
The one minion just walks in and kicks Brandini away so that there's no opportunity. He's the bulk of their damage right now, and then just willing to brawl it out, and not going to be making the solo queue mistake of walking back and staying in range.
Oh, but engage bot side, the lockdown, the chain CC, ooh, Wixie, feel the pain of the bounce, yes. Right there, that's the Callista Leona combo.
Arrow and Daption also showing up really big, but this is the trade-off that we're making, Kangas, right? Breezy's moving around the map in order to make sure that the rest of Cloud9 Amateur are doing well, but it does leave Wixie alone in a lot of these isolated positions, and he's starting to fall behind in terms of both experience and gold a little bit, and this is the culmination of that. So Wildcard Red are losing out on the top half, but they do have a strong Callista to play with, and I think it was Jensen Go who said the only thing that's wrong with Callista is that she stopped scaling at 6 items.
Yeah, it reaches a cutoff at some point, right? But this was what we expected when we saw this matchup yesterday in the AoE match, was that Callista can actually get the better, can actually kill the Ziggs in lane, and that's exactly why. You know, you have an extra form of engage, extra long engage from the Callista when Daption's not even level 6 yet. Imagine once Leona has her ultimate, Wixie's going to be in a lot of trouble. You have to be willing to blow that flash very early just to stay alive. And we highlighted the bot lane matchup, too, going into the game, how important this one would be, because Wixie's been looking real good. But this is Arrow we're talking about. He's been just stomping everybody.
True.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Josh. Oh, Speedo. No, he just didn't realize Winston was there. He walks the wrong way and pays the price.
That's unfortunate. That's really unlucky. I'd have to go back and look at the tapes to see if that was just unlucky or just him not respecting where the other jungler could be. But this is a situation where it does mean that he's going to be dead before this dragon spawns. But hey, on the bright side, he gets his back in. He's going to be on dragon on time if he wants to. But they're down a member as we start posturing around the vision for this upcoming Ocean Drake.
Yeah, let's see if Speedo teleport. Yeah, he teleports. So he's going to opt to get the XP and the gold from this wave rather than saving that TP for a potential dragon fight. XU drops the Rift Herald bot side, though. You see this play a lot with the Ziggs. And, oh, not quite at the threshold. Yeah, only level 7 on the Ziggs. Wixie doesn't get the turret. That would have been huge right before the dragon. But they're still sticking around. This is a death brush. Daption's walking into it. Breezy looks for it on the Arrow, but the immediate flash. Arrow turns the play, gets the kill. And now Leona re-engage. XU's in trouble. Fate's Call doesn't land onto anybody, but XU's still stuck right here. Daption's locking him down regardless. Another kill over to Wildcard Red. Captain Shrimps catches Winston at the tail end. Bradley's nearby, though, so the play is over for Cloud9. They cannot push for more.
I feel so bad for Breezy. This is the second time where he tries to go for an engage and just gets red and has nothing that he can do. The first one is in mid lane, and now the instant flash coming out from Wildcard means that the Alistar doesn't have the aftershock, ends up going down, and now they have priority over the mid lane. The one thing that they have in Cloud9's advantage is the fact that Diana is still dead. It's going to take them a little bit longer to actually get onto the map, but I mean, that said, they still get a bunch of plates here, so even though this fight doesn't quite go the way they want it to, they're still going to be walking away with at least a kill's worth of gold, and as we see in our picture-in-picture, Ziggs able to just walk on back, auto at once, and find it. But here, beautiful play from Arrow. Like, look at that. He doesn't have a lot of time. That's the kind of thing where you have to be ready for that. You can't just pure reaction it. You have to be expecting a play from your opponent in order to be able to do that.
And I'm just going to say, mechanically, as Alistar, you can headbutt him into the wall. You don't have to expend flash there. Or I guess you could just flash headbutt rather than flash pulverize at that angle. But he was looking for the big play, and the flash is easier to respond from Arrow in that situation.
XU.
Turret was taken, but XU is into the Dragon Pit right now, and right out of the Dragon Pit. Wildcard Red look to secure this one. Captain Shrimps does not get the steal. It's actually Daption that picks that one up, as Winston does not even get the smite down. Pretty lucky for Wildcard Red there, but they will get another objective. But the gold still over from that bottom turret. The first turret is picked up by Cloud9 Amateur while we were looking at that replay.
It's still most of the difference between these two teams in terms of gold. After watching that bottom lane play equalize a lot of the gold on the rest of the map, we are seeing it's only 1,000 gold between the two teams. And if you look at where it's located, there's not like big leads on anybody. I think our biggest one is like 700 gold on the top lane.
Yeah.
Where Speedo,
and like,
you know,
that's not even spent, so we don't even really feel that one. I guess they both have about 1,000 in the pocket right now, so maybe you're going to feel that one as Brandini, but overall, Wildcard Red still feeling like they're in this game for sure.
It's only a component, right? Like, yes, that matters, but combining full items is way more important than the spots, and oh, look at that wave clear.
Ooh, Captain Shrimps clears the wave and trades onto Bradley. Daption misses the Solar Flare, so Shrimps is out just fine. But interesting lane swaps here. They actually sent Captain Shrimps into the bot side, and now top lane. This is what you see with the Ziggs. You take a turret, get out of lane. Now Breezy looking for the play onto Brandini, but okay, just waves at him as they both pass by.
Ships passing in the night, very peaceful on this game of Summoner's Rift. But look at this in the bottom lane. Daption missed the ultimate, but he's sticking around. There might be a play onto Speedo. Looks like he's backing away, but it does mean that with everybody backing away from Wildcard, Cloud9 likely going to be getting their second Rift Herald of the game, and we've already talked about how effective this is with Ziggs. It's something that, you know, Wixie does very effectively. It's something that most teams that play Ziggs have figured out by now. You crash it into a turret, press W on the Ziggs, and suddenly there's no turret.
Yeah, I mean, usually 2.5 plates, but with that Ziggs, that turns into 3.5 plates. Huge early play. Now the plates are down, does even more. So let's see if they can keep pushing these turrets in. It's been the trade of gold from turrets and pressure of lanes from turrets versus those dragons. Wildcard Red still stacking them up. They have 2 in their pocket currently, and it will be an Infernal Soul that they're playing for. That is very impactful with the Jace. Extra oomph on the damage. Even the Callista can benefit immensely. Everybody. I mean, even Leona. So yeah, everybody.
Yeah, everybody loves this dragon. camp. It's something that you're going to be getting a lot of extra stats from, so whoever starts winning these next couple of fights is going to be getting a pretty large advantage as you start counting up towards 4. Cloud9 obviously don't have any dragons to their name just quite yet, so they do need to get more of them, but it also means if they get more of them, then suddenly you get 4 times the effect of the dragon rather than just the 1. Wildcard can only get 2, so they are a little bit capped in terms of the extra damage that they might be able to pick up. But Daption, topside, looking for something. And we're just going to be backing away for a moment, potentially looking for where the next play is going to be.
2 minutes for that dragon. If we think that's where the next play will be, let's do a quick recap of who's going to be at a better position for that, because it seems like teams are just posturing, trying to get waves, trying to get gold in their pocket. Captain Shrimps, yet again, I mean, he did it to Dox, and now he's doing it to Bradley, making a strong argument for himself as a top-tier mid laner here in the amateur scene. 2-0-1 on LeBlanc.
Okay.
You got to watch out for him in these plays. There's Rift Herald mid. Cloud9 amateur, they were looking for the objective, but Wildcard Red will answer, so we don't get a broken turret mid lane yet.
It's super close. Wixie can probably walk up here pretty soon and just press W, but it does mean that Wildcard are going to be bringing more players than they maybe needed in order to secure this. But Captain Shrimps, I mean, he's playing the LeBlanc. The wave player is nice, but it's not the safest thing. So until he sees Bradley, he can't full commit to clearing the wave and put it underneath the enemy turret. So with all that said, we got a minute left until the dragon. Neither team has yet set up a lot of vision for it. Neither team is yet controlling these choke points, and both of them have really strong poking tools from a long way away. You got Wixie's Ziggs on one side, you got Bradley's Jace on the other.
You could throw Captain Shrimps into that too.
There. True, you got to be very careful whenever you start coming around any of these points of Fog of War, and it looks like Cloud9 are going to be there a little bit faster than their opponents.
They got some wards down already. Breezy dropped them, but the 1-3-1 composition's coming out here as the observers are graciously showing us the top turret crash in right here. Just taking a leisurely stroll across Summoner's Rift right now. And we can take a look at the mid lane, though, so we can see some of the vision being set up here by the side of Cloud9 Amateur. That'd be fantastic, because that dragon will be up in 20 seconds right now. But no, we're still just... It's like one of those lazy rivers.
Wall.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, look at the detail of Summoner's Rift, the map right there. All right, there we go. And we're back.
Got some caffeine.
So
we're back, everybody. Thank you, Harry, Kevin.
And
you
we
guys do
take a look
job.
into the mid lane here so we can see the fight that's happening as we speak right now. Breezy looking for an engage here. Wildcard Red, they're posturing too. Either of these supports can at any time just say, we're going in. We're looking for the fight, and I actually like Wildcard Red's initiation a little more. Arrow flashed over the wall because he sees Shrimps there, but Winston cannot. Has to go golden here just to stay alive. Fate's Call will re-engage now. Daption's going in. Can Arrow outplay this? He is exhausted. Breezy flashes the wall too. Wildcard Red actually playing that fight pretty well. Now Speedo's isolated right now. He's retreating through the bottom river. Has to pop the parry early. Ultimate used. Bradley still with this range advantage of the Jace just poking out Speedo. He's got a full retreat right now. Oh, Winston almost lands that. Daption over the wall. Is he going to get it? He flashes. He's committing to it. Winston takes a lot of damage right there from the poke of the Ziggs, but Speedo will fall. One member down here for Cloud9 Amateur, but Wildcard Red no longer have the inside track of this dragon.
Winston ulted the Gromp. I don't know if you guys saw that. That means he doesn't have it available. I don't know if Cloud9 would have realized that in the last situation. So we got a bunch of teleports. Captain Shrimps and Winston can't come back with full health and mana, but they're going to be giving over this dragon.
He's got Blast Code. Does he jump? No.
Doesn't have vision.
Yeah, I mean, you could try Blast Code that and then, get back over the wall with a ward, but that's bold.
Alright, so we do have an opportunity here for Wildcard to kind of bring it back. They're only down about 500 gold right now, but they have 3 dragons. And guess what? That means that every single time a dragon spawns again, Wildcard can be happy even just going for 50-50s here, because if Cloud9 win the coin flip and XU gets the smite, they get a dragon. Whoop-de-doo. Whereas if Wildcard get it, they get the Infernal Soul. So it's going to be super effective coming out for Wildcard at this point. Every single time the dragon is available, you force Cloud9 to come to you, and as long as Bradley is going to be doing this amount of damage with his Shock Blast, it's going to be a worthwhile time to come out.
That's rough for Cloud9 Amateur because they were the ones that got vision priority around the dragon first to start off.
Roar.
And roar, the Baron has spawned, everybody. The big objective, the big purple worm that these teams will now be looking to fight over as well. Not as much on Cloud9 Amateur side, but if you leave Wildcard Red on this alone with that Callista, she can actually take that pretty fast as she's got 2 items completed here already. So Wildcard Red still stacking up those dragons. They're on Soul Point. Cloud9 Amateur, they really haven't gotten that much of a gold lead either. They're only 600 up, being 2 turrets in the lead right now. So it really feels like their game plan just hasn't worked out the way that they were hoping.
And we still see the only place where they have a worthwhile gold lead is going to be up in the top lane, where Speedo continues to be about 800 gold up above Brandini, simply because they've both been farming rather effectively. And now we might get another play on the map. Breezy isn't here just quite
Winston and
yet.
Adaption are, though. Cloud9 don't know this. They don't realize that there's a jungler and a support, but they're playing patiently. Xyu's walking up. Now he's all alone, though. Solar Flare slows over into the Baron
Good
pit.
escape.
Xyu's looking to get away. Yeah, he's got the movement speed from the scuttle, and now do they re-engage right now? Captain Shrimps is here. This would be really aggressive, but they have Ziggs Bomb, and Wildcard are grouped up. Don't want to pull the trigger.
Okay. Bottom lane, Brandini has to rotate because Cloud9 Amateur would have the inside track towards the mid lane, and he has to go and cover, so this gives Speedo some alone time with the turret, and we all know how quickly Fiora does damage to these structures, so small advantage going to Cloud.
Breezy, get out of there. The Moby Boots no longer online. Has to pop the ultimate teleport coming in here from the top laner.
Good kick.
Actually, it's Captain Shrimps
Good
that
kick.
teleported in. The Ziggs Bomb, huge onto Arrow!
Xyu!
Picked off at the start of the fight. Cloud9 Amateur have already won it.
Oh,
Breezy
God.
might fall. Bradley, that's a consolation prize if anything, and he doesn't even find it. Double kill to Wixie, and a huge shutdown on Arrow. Cloud9 Amateur can now go for Baron.
Xyu is so good, man. I can't wait to see a replay. Wait, hold on. We might not actually get one, but we do get to see the results of it. Cloud9 going to be taking down this Baron completely uncontested as they take down so many members in this last fight. And we were asking, or at least I was asking, how is Cloud9 going to accelerate this game? This is how you do it. You bait and engage with Breezy. You end up getting the Baron, and now you have the tools to push for turrets with your Ziggs and also establish map control for the upcoming Dragon.
And even if Baron wasn't taken, even if there wasn't a fight right there, we still saw Speedo taking that tier 2 bottom turret. Like, they would have gotten that most likely anyway. And now with the Baron buff, it becomes easier for this 1-3-1 composition to come online. Joshi, this is what Cloud9 Amateur have been looking for. They just got to make sure that the Dragon's Soul doesn't go over to Wildcard Red here in a minute 20 once that's back up. And then they're in a very strong position right now. Captain Shrimp still hasn't reset. 3-0-3. Let's see what this LeBlanc's able to purchase here. Full Void Staff, and it looks like that's going to be it for right now,
Wards,
but still, 2-item Power Spike picked up.
The wards are still good. Whenever you can get these control wards to deny vision and make sure that people are face checking you blind against the LeBlanc, it becomes very, very scary. I like the double Void Staff coming out from Captain Shrimps and Wixie. They're going to be building up a lot of magic penetration, so everything is going to be hurting really hard every time they land something. And they're currently the ones in control. They're pushing out the waves, and they're using their advantage to continue to push Wildcard further away from the mid lane.
This is the poke that LeBlanc can do. She pokes very close to you because she has to kind of hurl her body in your direction, but still does work out here as the observer's showing us mid lane take. This is what they can do with the Baron buff right now. Push it in. Wixie has the Ziggs, takes these very fast. They're trading for the top side. Bradley will get that one. But Cloud9, they take a turret. Dragon's up in 20 seconds. I don't think Wildcard Red are going to get an opportunity to actually fight for it.
We'll see what they want to do, right? Bradley might be happy to trade an inhibitor for the Dragon if he's given the opportunity to, and the only teleport that Cloud9 has available right now to match him is Ziggs. You don't want to be sending Ziggs to go up against the Jace. It is very difficult for Ziggs to stay alive, so Bradley could choose to teleport, but the rest of Wildcard not positioning to try and contest this Dragon. And we said, you know, whoop-de-doo, giving over one Dragon to Cloud9 isn't the end of the world for Wildcard, but that is worth so much more if Wildcard will have an opportunity to go for it soon. Instead, Winston potentially looking to pick on Speedo in the top lane.
Could see a 1v1 of this Fjord. It's actually going to be Bradley Winston. Seeing him here. It's a 2v1. Speedo was not prepared for this one. Caught in the death brush. Tries to ult Winston.
Nice.
But the Zonias will keep Winston safe, and Bradley packs a hell of a punch right now. But the rest of Cloud9, they're fighting Daption. They're fighting Arrow right now here in the river. It's going to be a 5v4, though. They didn't take him down fast enough. They didn't even kill Arrow. And now Cloud9 in full retreat. Wixie falls. Xyu as well. And Wildcard Red with a big team fight win. Getting pick after pick. Breezy, though, onto Winston. And Captain Shrimps actually follow up on this. He's taking a lot of damage. Gotta watch out for Brandini. No! Didn't see him over the corner. And Wildcard Red just picked up a massive advantage there.
They thought they had an advantage with the 4v3, but it wasn't enough, and Wildcard continued to scrap. This game remains super close, but as we see these turrets going to be picked up from Wildcard, it is going to mean that the gold lead is going to narrow, and look at that, we are back on to even. But we can watch this again. Speedo, there's not a lot that he can do here. He does his best to try and turn things on to Winston, and he stops a lot of the initial damage, but it doesn't mean a lot. And now we gotta watch over here because Wixie,
Wildcard
top
started
side,
it.
Yep, finds the angle onto the Ziggs, and unfortunately XU missing the Q, not going to be finishing off Arrow, has to run away, doesn't have an escape route from the rest of the fight, and it just gets brawled out from there. Breezy, unfortunately, having a bit of a rough game here, and he ends up baiting Captain Shrimps to come back, and Brandini finds a kill.
Breezy looking for the flashy Alistair plays. Hasn't quite found the right one for the team that will be that big team winning factor. It's actually Wildcard, though, that caught out Wixie there. So I thought it was Cloud9 Amateur saying, oh, there's 2 members top, let's try and fight them while we have an advantage. But it was actually Wildcard constantly putting the pressure up, and now they find themselves with even gold state, but still on that Dragon Soul point. And now with even gold, they can control these lanes that much easier.
Cloud9 Amateur a bit on the back foot now. Ooh. God, 3-shotting people right now with a Shock Blast is Bradley. And admittedly, Captain Shrimps has no armor to play with. He is rather squishy, but that's the same thing that's going to be happening to most members of Cloud9 because they don't have a lot of defensive stats. So it's going to be a very explosive fight when we do get one. I'm looking at XU once again. He's been playing this incredibly well. We saw him really shine last time in a lot of these fights, and I think he will have an opportunity to shine once more the next time these teams go head-to-head.
Wildcard Red are looking to siege his bottom turret. Cloud9 Amateur have a couple members here, but yeah, you're not keeping that safe. You might even just die for staying around the area, the general vicinity. Breezy getting caught out right now, but that is Alistair with ultimate. He's tanking up a lot. And now the rest of Cloud9 Amateur are here. Re-engage here onto XU. Oh no, the Lee Sin, he's locked down. He does get out. Winston looking to lock him down. Stopwatch, re-engage from Breezy. Speedo
they're
with
separated.
The shutdown. The massive Fiora in the team fight gets a double kill. Cloud9 Amateur making a triple. Speedo with the hard carry performance in this fight. Even dodges out on that Shock Blast. What a turnaround.
This is right before the objectives are coming up once again. We said Cloud9 would have the option to pick up the Dragon, but now they're going to be in a position to pick up the Baron. It's spawning in 10 seconds, and with Winston on the far side of the map just coming out now, he'll have an opportunity to steal, but that's it. So this fight, absolutely nuts. It's so touch and go as people are trying to decide, do we want to commit to this or not? You see XU just being there, threatening Arrow and preventing him from getting any damage down during this fight. But at some point, we see Wildcard Red split their focus a little bit. Winston and Bradley don't feel like they can go right on in the main side, and Bradley ends up backing away, and that means that Cloud9 more can join. They turn the Arc of Fire. They get people to turn around to try and deal with the Blanc diving onto Arrow, but it's not enough. They're able to bring this concave together, and it looks so good as they reassert a lead.
XU baiting them in, and then stop watching Breezy. That time he found the right engage as the Alistair, and it just comes down to Speedo to clean it all up. Now we see Cloud9 Amateur back with the gold lead, 2K, 20 seconds until this Dragon spawns. Wildcard Red were just in such a good position for this, but now they've lost Baron. Now they're lost priority in the mid lane. It looks like they're just setting up for this. They want a hard force.
It is a lot of damage still coming out from Bradley, even to
Brandini's
Breezy at
bot.
this point. Okay, we got a full-on fight about to happen. Remember, Wildcard Red, if they win a 50-50, get Infernal Soul.
Speedo's on the flank right now. Let's see if Brandini can deal with him in a 1v1. Dragon hasn't been started yet. Winston does hit it here. All right, Wildcard Red adaption. He has to get pulls back in with the Fate's Call. XU's taking a lot of damage up front here, so it's Breezy. Can they find the engage now, though? Brandini, massive damage to start things off. Winston as well going golden to stay alive. Speedo still threatening on this flank. Daption standing still. He's left the game. Oh, no. What a terrible time to have a disconnect, Joshi. In the middle of the fight, Daption just stops walking in the river right there. Wow.
This fight can be for the game, and Daption disappearing. Unlucky, man. This is what happens when you're an amateur, right? People playing from home, different people have different internet connections, but oh my gosh, we got to see glimpses of brilliance coming out from both sides. Breezy has been looking for these engages and hasn't quite found them just quite yet, but he's trying so hard. And then, of course, Diana, with a big turnaround, almost turns the fight completely on its head. Not quite getting there just quite yet. And I think we're about to get ready for fight number 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Let's see. As soon as we get Daption loaded back into that game, we'll get back into it, everybody. My heart is racing right now, because if Wildcard Red get this dragon, that could just be game, despite the fact that Cloud9 Amateur have the Baron. They've been fighting for this whole time. They got the Jace, they got the Diana, they got the Kalista, these champions that love this Infernal Soul. Team fights will be so much harder for Cloud9 Amateur to deal with later on, and maybe they can still go for that split push style like they have been, but they're fighting. They're opting into the 5v5 right now. Speedo's actually been doing a really good job of navigating these team fights. I just want to give him a quick shout out, because the Fiora, she's usually kind of tough in those situations.
Yeah, we are getting word right now from production as well that unfortunately Daption is in the middle of a thunderstorm and is in the middle of a power outage. So at this point, you know, the gods of rain are saying it's like, we're going to be in a spot where we might have a bit of a longer pause than we might have initially hoped for, ladies and gentlemen. That gives us a lot of time to talk about all the different things that are going on, because the big thing that comes to mind, you said, if Wildcard get the dragon, it's going to be almost impossible for Cloud9 to come back. But if they get the dragon and lose all of their members right now, the game can also end because of how quickly Ziggs does damage structures.
And because Baron is still up for Cloud9 Amateur for at least another minute. I mean, they've already taken that tier 2 mid lane, and they have a wave currently pushing in mid lane. So if Cloud9 Amateur can win the fight, they just run mid and win the game right there. So yeah, this is going to be massive. Speedo has not ulted yet, I don't believe. He was on the Fiora, still hanging out by that tri-bush. I didn't see that ult come out here, but so many fronts, it's hard to know everything that's going on at one time. But just if you'll allow me a short pun here, Joshi, it looks like Breezy's bringing a little more wind here as the thunderstorm shutting down Daption's internet.
That's cheating.
That's worse than DDoSing. Let's take this time to just go over some of the replays here. There was one around the top side, just to kind of watch how Wildcard Red were able to wrestle back into this game. The one mistake Cloud9 Amateur have taken, where we saw Speedo get picked off and then Wixie get picked off. Things started to collapse for Cloud9 Amateur. This was where Wildcard Red really started to come back into the game, despite being behind by about 3K for the entire time. So it looks like we have that replay up. Let's take a look at that one here. Walk me through, Joshi, because this was the time that Cloud9 Amateur were going to really just cement themselves in this game.
And you kind of look at this and ask where the ideas are coming from, right? Speedo thinks he can probably go forward because they're expecting Wildcard to mostly have back, and I would have expected them to have back as well if I was playing in that game, but sometimes those assumptions we make are wrong, and Wixie is also expecting a back to be coming out from the members of Wildcard. He thinks he's safe to just like walk through the river, but oh no is he wrong, and these are all the different places where they have opportunities to just build up these big opportunities to turn things on its head by preying on players' expectations.
Wildcard Red wrestling it back here, and then Cloud9 Amateurs still were able to bring it back around the bottom fight too. It's back and forth, Joshi. This is the rematch of the Risen Grand Finals. I was going into this one, I didn't know, we didn't do our predictions. I don't even know if the desk did predictions going into this series, but I expected it to be close. We were favoring Wildcard Red, or at least I was, just based on their historical performance. They're going for that three-peat, but Cloud9 Amateur making them work for it. We're going to send it over to Rafa and the desk here to help talk a little bit more about that game while we're waiting for Daption to hopefully get back into the game. Thunderstorms are crazy to deal with in the middle of a game of League of Legends, but we're all crossing our fingers for him. Rafa, though, take it away.
Thunderstorms and lightning isn't so fun, especially for gamers at this time, as we're in the point of a game where that team fight could have been the deciding outcome for Game 1. I know myself, Jolly, and Rebel Fox, we were all on the edge of our seats watching the game, but more so from the opening that Cloud9 Amateur have. Now, for those that are tuning in, we want to, just remind and state that the game is not over yet. Game 1 is still in a pause as Daption it has disconnected from the game, unfortunately, due to a power outage, and we're just waiting to see for Wildcard Red to be able to come back into the game and get Daption back up and running. But I want to throw it to you first, Rebel, because there's a point in the game where Cloud9 Amateur, they realize that fighting 5-on-5s isn't necessarily the best for them, but they kind of had to opt into it since the Captain Shrimps and Speedo weren't necessarily doing so well in some of the side lane split pushes here.
Yeah, if you look at how this composition's set up, it's not exactly designed perfectly to play in a 5-on-5 situation, especially into the amount of AoE CC that's coming through from the side of Wildcard. And so for Cloud9, their early advantage was something I was really banking on them hoping for, which is why you saw a double Rift Herald come out. It didn't net them as much as they would have wanted to, but they were able to break open the game with that fight around mid lane, which came from I think it was Speedo, or my apologies, not Speedo. It was Breezy that was almost caught on Alistar, ended up getting turned around because of Captain Shrimps and also Wixie being able to bring down Arrow. And that's what slingshot them back in. And they've had a couple of those individual moments where that this fighting gets really scrappy. They don't get this clean engagement from Wildcard, and all of a sudden these champions who are super powerful in individual moments like the Fiora are able to pop off really hard. I think Wildcard Red, if they get these clean engagements, look nice, but C9 has been able to thwart their attempts thus far.
Okay, and then the other thing too, as we were looking throughout the game, in some of these team fight engages, we see that Cloud9 Amateur are able to find the appropriate counter engage response, whether it's from a knockup from Breezy, as we saw during the bottom lane fight, or sometimes Wildcard Red, they isolate one of the members from Cloud9, and then they just start picking them off one by one. And I think there's a fight around, I want to say the 27-minute mark for Baron. And right before, that's when things started going a little haywire there, Jolly. We were thinking, okay, Cloud9 Amateur are starting to put the pieces together, and the Wildcard Red immediately you're like, no, hang on, guys, hang on. You're not winning this game that easily. Even Bradley just giving a powerhouse of a snipe as well.
Yeah, and I think, this is kind of the strategy that we saw a lot of yesterday. And I think it was AoE in particular that was doing a really good job of this in splitting apart these fights. And Cloud9 clearly has recognized that if they go in 5v5, it's probably not going to be in their favor. They don't have quite as much of a backline to really jump onto Arrow there, and especially with the engage from the Kalista ultimate. So finding these split fights has been very successful for this team, and the damage that we get available from Captain Shrimps when you have something like the stopwatch being blown there by XU, who's able to come back and continue the fight, makes a huge difference. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Before this game started, it is, yes, favored for Wildcard to win, but I mentioned of all the teams to go into this matchup here, it's not just a rivalry between these two guys because of first and second place previously. It's legitimately just two of the biggest growing teams. It feels like they have grown so much in a short amount of time, and Cloud9 has really proven it here yesterday and today.
For the rest of Cloud9 Amateur, I mean, it's definitely been super exciting to see them open up this aggressively in Game 1 because, as Kangas put it out, none of us really gave out predictions, but we were all kind of, before this series started, not to not to disrespect Cloud9 fans, but we're all kind of saying, well, Wildcard Red do have the track history of coming out on top in these situations. They beat Cloud9 Amateur in the best of 5, and in a best of 3, we are all thinking, I mean, this could be a 2-0, maybe a 2-1 from Wildcard Red. But if Cloud9 Amateur are opening up this series like this, then the problem does come from, as Rebel, you pointed out earlier, the lack of ability for being able to shut down win conditions, even when they already have a decent snowball rolling for them from the early game leads here.
It's I've seen it plague them from time to time, especially in their earlier iterations. It was something that really plagued them. And you can see they're doing a very good job attempting to push their really significant advantages, but even into the fight that led us into the pause that had come through. That's still something that they're opting into fights that are really challenging for themselves. Giving up early dragons is difficult for this team because, I mean, you don't want to fight in a 5-on-5. You want to be able to set up. Now, you do have Lee Sin and LeBlanc for flanking and things like that to set up things, but it's still a much more difficult to execute 5-on-5. So ideally, you just want to shy away from that, but they haven't really done that much. So while, yeah, they've done a fantastic job of finding like wins in 5-on-5s, which is going to happen, they still have to be extremely careful with like what the setup is going to look like. This most recent play that ended up with things, I mean, you've got fights on 3 fronts. I really wanted to see Wildcard just pick a direction and fight towards the beginning of this. And even into this moment, things aren't looking particularly good for C9 because of the dropped health bars, and you've got all 5 members together. If Daption had been here for this, it is entirely possible that this fight could look different, especially with like Speedo on the opposite side. If they turn on Speedo, maybe there's like real legitimate play that can come through. But again, this is C9 who has put themselves in a position where, because they've given up every other dragon in the game, they have to contest every dragon to not go over Infernal Soul, which requires these moments where now Wildcard Red can use their 5-on-5 comp, and if they find one good engagement, all of a sudden C9 just lose Dragon Soul, lose a big fight, and the game flops back into the control of Wildcard, which is my real fear here for this team, even into the moments like now, where you have this pause and you're not able to control anything with the health bars you're currently looking at.
The other thing that is that we have to mention here is look at this, the state of the side lane on that top side. As Brandini got a massive push in that is potentially threatening in that inhibitor turret if Wildcard Red are able to somewhat stall this for long enough, because the Infernal Soul is their con that they're playing for. If they lose it to if they lose it to Cloud9, then it's not necessarily the end of the world. It does delay that soul win point for them, but I'm curious to see from this standpoint, once we get Daption back in, as unfortunately we don't have the abilities to do Chrono Break or be able to go back and retake the fight. Once the game is back, we will be resuming from that point in the game, where you see Speedo on the left side flank, as I'm getting word that Daption is back in and everything is ready to go. As, you know, keep your eyes peeled out for Speedo on that left flank, as he's the one that's kind of trying to keep things in check here for Wildcard Red, whereas the rest of Cloud9, they have a decision to make. You know, do they try to flip for the dragon, or do they try to bail and push out one of the mid lanes or the side lanes, or do they have to respond back to the top lane and let everything reset? We'll see how everything unfolds, as Kangas and Josh are ready again to commentate the game once again.
All right, and we're back to live, everybody. That was a long pause right there, but we're right back into the Steam fight. And we were talking about ult economy. Daption, one of the only members with ultimate available, throws it down immediately after the pause. Gets flashed out of Wixie, but Cloud9 Amateur, they're starting to back off. All right, teleporting back in. Joshi, we're still going to get this 5v5. Captain Shrimps with this flank here in the tri-bush. He's spotted out by Bradley. He has to run away. XQ's very low health as well. I don't know if Cloud9 Amateur want to commit to this. XQ's actually just going to lifesteal off the dragon. I like this play.
Okay, we're going to see Wildcard come back in.
Looking for it. Winston almost gets blown up by Captain Shrimps now. Now watch for Breezy's engage. Alistair has splash, but Arrow, he just finds XQ all alone in the top pixel brush. Speedo trying to make the hero play onto Brandini, but he's going to go down as well. Captain Shrimps falls. Everyone's falling for Cloud9 Amateur, and Wildcard Red are winning this fight, but over the wall, Wixie's untouched. Look at the health bars of Wildcard Red. Wixie can literally 1v3 this right now. Absolutely insane team fight positioning right now. I think he can do it. He can hold the line.
Oh, it's so scary. You're a Ziggs, and there's so many flank lines.
The W cooldown's going to be up soon here for Brandini. He's looking for it. Wixie's caught right now. He has no escape path. Maybe he can look to steal the dragon, but that's no smite on Winston, but there is the rend. Okay. I think he's just going to give it over. Maybe he throws one bomb. Can Wixie steal it? No, it's too early. Does he have another? There we go. Dragon picked up for Wildcard Red. What a chaotic position to pause the game. But coming back to live, Wildcard do get the objective.
They get it, and they also get almost all the Barons off of Cloud9, and we see the last one fall off of Wixie there. So suddenly, Wildcard Red are not trailing anymore. They have a commanding lead, even though the gold is almost identical. They have the Infernal Soul, and we've already been seeing how much damage Bradley has been doing throughout this game with his poke. It's going to be turned up to 11. So we have to see, do Cloud9 have the flanks? Do they have the resilience to get these fast team fights, blow up the members of Wildcard Red before the Infernal Soul can really make a difference?
And we saw Cloud9's
no.
composition
Oh,
struggling in
no.
that situation. They're struggling even more. Captain Shrimps, he's trying to play the side lane, but getting caught out now by Arrow and Daption. The LeBlanc looked so good, so clean. Early on, Bradley with the read. Oh, beautiful play right there. Absolutely packing heat like a tank right now as we get a replay of this fight after the pause.
This fight becomes so chaotic with people all over the place, and you see Cloud9 are the ones who have to walk through this choke, and it's such a dangerous spot to be for them to try and do anything. XU is on one side, Shrimps is on another side, and Arrow finally just recognized, oh, I can just walk forward to the Hail of Blades and kill this guy. And so I don't know what Cloud9 try and do from this position. You have to wait for Captain Shrimps to come back up in order to mount an effective defense. You can't win this 4v5, and so instead, look at this. Breezy trying to make a hero play on the far side.
Breezy's looking to push bot side right now. They're losing a lot top side. Breezy is here. Brandini locked down under the turret. Speedo will have damage, but Breezy's buying a lot of time for his team to take these inhibitors. He will go down. Even exhaust is used. Cloud9 Amateur, they realized we need to make this play work.
Okay, I like it a lot. I like it a lot. We see Bradley looking to back away, but it might be too late for the inhibitor turret. Either way, yeah, Bradley will not be there, and it does mean that it is going to be an inhibitor turret. The wildcard base is
Cloud9 Amateur
now.
might be able to get a couple kills.
This is a hard fight.
Captain Shrimps goes back. Oh, okay. Woo, I thought Cloud9 Amateur could have actually chased that down if they wanted to, but all right, they lose their top inhibitor. Wildcard Red right back to even gold with that Dragon Soul. It's been a little chaotic ever since coming back from that pause, but it just shows how willing these players are, how ready they are to keep playing this game.
Cloud9 need to be able to find something quick if they want to try and win something. Remember, the Infernal Soul, the cooldown is pretty low. It's only a couple of seconds, and that means every time it comes up, you're going to be taking a big chunk of damage. Look at that. Even Breezy is taking about a third of his HP every time Bradley throws out that Shock Blast. So you can't afford to take more than 2 of those for almost anybody. So we'll see what kind of defenses they can make as we see Breezy once again looking to make a repeat play, potentially ignore this Baron. Remember, there are 3 teleports on Cloud9. They might be looking for some kind of backdoor.
They could go for it, or they could teleport onto the Baron if they need to, but as of right now, they're not near the Baron. XU will spot this out, but that's already gone. The Ren from the Callista, too much with 4 items. Oh, and now they're even catching up Captain Shrimps. The LeBlanc was just trying to go for a flank play, I suppose, and takes a lot of damage for it. Cloud9 Amateur will get this inhibitor. Captain Shrimp still alive. XU stopping Bradley's back right now. Winston just buying time, flashes in, doesn't get Shrimps. XU with the 1v1 against Bradley.
Wait, that's 2?
He pulls it off, but can he get out? He's on the Krugs. He's over the wall.
No,
you're insane.
Okay, they also got the bottom lane inhibitor. Cloud9 are still in this. They're pulling the map apart, but we're seeing Gwen trying to find a chase. Not going to find it. Is going to let them walk away. Okay, all right, Cloud9, I see you. You're still trying to stay in this, and this is impressive coming from the team that we didn't have a lot of expectations from spring. They've improved so much, and now they are just a minute and a half away from being able to contest for the Elder Dragon and completely ignore the Infernal Dragon because they have a bigger buff to play for.
Playing the 1-3-1 split push composition very well. Watch XU here. He sees Bradley back in, and he goes.
Yoop! Just goes.
He
right
almost
on,
loses this still.
He does. The Infernal Soul is so good, but look at that. Just follows him. The Q, a little bit weird based on the timing, but he's able to get out. Just so much situational awareness. This is the XU that we've been looking for, that Cloud9 need to stay in this game. It's so crazy how close this game still remains, even with Infernal Soul on the other team.
2-3-9 of the Lee Sin. Not the flashiest of KDAs, but he's got the flashiest of plays, and that is all that matters here. Brandini throws out the ultimate to clear the wave. They still have a massive Baron wave right now. Wildcard Red RCGing on the bottom side. Speedo split pushing top. He's got teleport, but no flanking wards to go for, so it will just be a single push right now. Let's see if Cloud9 can actually clear this wave.
Another minute of Baron, so that's 2 more waves coming through for Wildcard Red that they can potentially crash into the lane. Trying to see if there's an opportunity for them to find something.
Breezy's
Bradley
looking
goes
for the
in.
play. Trying to lock down Bradley. He goes golden with the stopwatch. Winston's in. Bradley's still alive. Now re-engaged from Dapshin with Arrow's assistance. And now Wildcard Red with the 5v4 in the base, pushing hard. They take down Breezy and the middle inhibitor. Speedo still in the top side pushing. XU's almost dead, but he makes it out. Wildcard Red, can they end it here? They still have 5 members strong. Nobody's gone down. Chemstreams is about to fall. Brandy with the ultimate, doesn't quite get it. Oh no, Wixie has to go golden. The Nexus turrets are down. Speedo's finally rejoined, but it's too late. The Nexus falls. Wildcard Red. They did it. They'll take game 1.
Oh boy, Kingus, that was so exciting. There was so much back and forth. You got to see both teams playing all over the map. We got to see some star players from both sides. And guys, we have a whole series left to play. It was 37 minutes of back and forth action, and we got so much more to watch. I can't believe this is how we're starting the day off, Kingus.
That was absolutely insane, everybody. That back and forth throughout the entire game, the pause right in the middle of the big team fight that we thought would decide, and it kind of did end up deciding. That Infernal Soul was just too much for Cloud9 Amateur to come back from. They couldn't fight anymore. They had to play for these side lane pushes, and they were almost close to pulling it up.
Almost.
Speedo was just hard committing to that shove topside. If they didn't die onto that turret, if they didn't commit onto Bradley with a stopwatch up, maybe they can actually hold out there. Wow, what a performance. So we're going to set it to a break, everybody, before the Analyst S comes back to actually break down everything that happened throughout that insane game 1. So you won't want to miss it. We'll be right back after this.
Whew. We need to take a breather out of that one. I don't think that break was long enough, guys. You know, production, can we send it back to the credit? No, I'm just kidding. Don't worry.
Not ready.
We need to redo our makeup and style. We need the stylists to come back
you wipe
and like
the tears away.
Yeah, we need to recover. Oh my goodness, that was intense. And I mean, and of course, you know, the pause from Daption, we almost thought, oh no, is that doomsday for Wildcard Red? But then they recover, they're able to get back, and I want to immediately jump right into that Infernal Soul Point Dragon fight here, Rebel, because at that moment, you're thinking that, okay, maybe Cloud9 now have the tools to potentially close out this fight. They've burned a majority of ultimate spells from the side of Wildcard Red. There's no Solar Flare. Wildcard Red are kind of pinned to the corner, but then this is where Wildcard Red's expertise and veterancy come into play, because you have to remember Cloud9 Amateur, the only veteran members that have had experience outside of semi-pro is Breezy. Breezy coming from 100 Thieves Academy back from last year before Poom graduated, whereas you look at Wildcard Red, I mean, you got Arrow, man, LCK, MVP, Phoenix 1, also MVP of the year as well for his time over there. So like between him and then you've got members like Winston and Brandini who are able to provide so much expertise and just like composure and poise in those moments, as we'll be getting a replay of that fight soon here, Rebel.
The biggest thing, like when that fight first started before the break, I know you two are here to be able to hear me screech, pick a direction and fight to Wildcard Red. And then after the break, the same thing happened where they were surrounded on three sides, and I said, pick a direction and fight. And finally, they picked a direction and they fought. Look at that. Things went pretty well. Because eventually, like you said, the veterancy came in, and I think Arrow was able to spot the one person that they were able to aggress against, XU, who is not only really important because he was one of the engages, but also able to come into and shut down what was effectively the jungle smite position that came through to confirm that Drake. The fight afterwards got really scrappy. I actually thought maybe Wixie would have been able to hold it because the Ziggs was really powerful and full health, but once Arrow sustained through, was able to actually, keep them in. But yeah, Wildcard Red finally were able to use their comp and say, we're going to pick specific targets, we're going to solo them down, and then we're going to have a superior 5-on-5 because we've got more members. And that Infernal Soul, it transforms this game from, now it's a gold battle where like you've got one team who's not good at 5-on-5 but has a bunch of individual members to, okay, now you've got a team that's got a bunch of flat stats from Infernal Soul with all this in combat like damage alongside everything else that had come through, and it makes it so much harder.
Yeah, this just watch how Wildcard Red are after the initial fight. Things seem to go in Cloud9 Amateur's way, right?
Oh, yes.
But then afterwards, this is where, after the second fight comes in, and this is something that Joshi likes to talk about a lot in terms of team fighting, is a team's ability and understanding of how to take secondary fights when a majority of cooldowns are being burned, and then it comes down to the team's understanding of like, okay, where do we fight on this front? You saw recall come in from Breezy, so he's going to be late to the party, and Cloud9 Amateur are trying to stall as much as they can, but this is where things become interesting because a majority of the members start rotating in through the bottom choke point, whereas Captain Shrimps is on this side.
And they squeeze them up into the river, which I don't think is where you want, because again, after Captain Shrimps has to flee from Bradley, they don't have pressure from this top side, and this is a team who wants to go for the dragon no matter what anyway, because that's their win condition. Even a bad fight for them here gets them Infernal Soul, which is absolutely valuable. So they just take their step forward. XU hangs around a little bit too much, and Arrow finds him out. And that was, I think, just the blowing play here, just because, yes, afterwards it feels like it's just recovery mode for C9, where they were attempting to elicit some sort of fight here so that they could use or break apart this fight from multiple angles. But losing one of those angles in XU and also having no threat against the dragon means, okay, they're going to fight, there's nothing we can do. And again, this is the point where Wixie, like, he tries to hold, but there's not much to do once Arrow sustains up, and this was the breaking point where finally Wildcard's composition was able to thrive, because now you got superior team fight, your scalings come online with Infernal Soul, everything's back into their pockets.
And Jolly, this is kind of the narrative that we've come to expect from Wildcard Red against Cloud9 Amateur. Yes, we've seen the brilliant individual outplays from members like XU on the Lee Sin. I mean, there is a reason why Joshi and Kang were losing their minds over how many times Lawrence was able to get himself out of a sticky situation. But, I mean, individual outplays are not going to be enough. The team coordination from Wildcard Red was just on a superior level, even when they were being pushed to their limits by Cloud9 Amateur.
Absolutely. This is part of the narrative that I bring up a lot, specifically with this team, with Wildcard Red, is the way that they force out reactive plays from the enemy team. So, you know, instead of being able to early on send that Fiora to split push to get the side lane so they could get pressure elsewhere on the map, which they managed to do a little bit at the end, but they should have been able to do that earlier. Instead, they were forced out because Wildcard Red just had these proactive plays. It forced C9 to come and recover wherever they were. So we can see here Speedo finally getting a little bit of a split, but a little bit too late potentially. It ends up getting a lot of pressure there for Cloud9 and kind of does allow them to stay in this game and in this fight for quite a while longer. But when you're sending 4 to 5 members to deal with 3 or 4 members on the other team, and your base is being broken into, it's really difficult to go into one of these fights. Bradley there with a spectacular stopwatch that we have seen time and time again from this player. And at that point, Fiora, yeah, you can continue to get pressure, but this secondary inhib has just gone down. You've got Breezy who's gone down, and Fiora is not going to be able to out-trade in this matchup. So the pings come out saying, all right, Fiora, you can continue to put pressure up here, but the fight was not going in favor of Cloud9, and that's where the reactive play was forced out. Fiora has to come back down to the bottom side, but it's too little too late. The game's already over.
Because we saw Speedo managing to get the bottom inhibitor, but the fact that they weren't able to put Speedo in a comfortable enough position during the mid game off of the leads that XU and Speedo had gained in the earlier invade that was kind of botched by Winston and Bradley that netted XU a decent lead, and then another successful 2v2 advantage. You would think that that would have been enough for Speedo to be able to start splitting in a lane by himself, but Wildcard Red found powerful advantages through some of those mid-game fights, and as you said, Rebel, you know, the key thing that Cloud9 Amateur needed to be able to do with that more early game lead that they had garnered through the top side of the map is somehow transition that and bring it into the bottom half of the map and get those dragons, because that, I think that was a crippling part for Cloud9 Amateurs, that they were put on this timer. 2 of those dragons had already gone towards the way of Wildcard Red, and then suddenly they're on the 3rd dragon, and they're at soul point, whereas Cloud9 Amateur, they need a little bit more time. They needed to make sure that Speedo was actually in a position where he could get to the point where he's split pushing, like you mentioned, Jolly, and it's a little too late, only in the framework that Cloud9 Amateur were not able to stop and prevent Wildcard Red from being able to reach soul point in the first place here, Rebel.
It's a situation where I know Joshi, especially on our casters, he likes to talk about dragons as not stats that you can get, but more so points towards the soul. That's really important. And you can also think of it as time, because each one of those you take gives you 5 more minutes. So for the side of Cloud9, even though your early game looks good, even though your split push looks good, you need gold before that setup really starts to come to fruition. And so it's like, how much time can you buy yourselves in the early game? Yes, you could take double Rift Herald, you could try to expand your gold and take some early game skirmishes, mid-game skirmishes, accelerate your gold. Is that going to be enough for you to take fights around objectives when it comes to this like pure engage you got on the side of Wildcard Red? Clearly not anymore, but that was their intention. The alternative is, if you focus early dragons with some of that advantage you've got early, you buy yourself more time later in the game. And again, this is a win condition kind of acceptance thing that comes from this team. They've had problems in the past, they're getting better at it. I do want to point out, towards the end of that game, they were causing a bunch of chaos in multiple lanes, breaking this team apart. I like that our casters talked about that, because it was one way that Cloud9 was trying to take away the win condition from Wildcard, but it was really late. But at least they showed some of that. But I'd like to see that not only from their draft, but also in their early game plan of, okay, not just what do we want to do, but what does the enemy want to do, and how can we stop them and get ourselves into the good place at the same time.
That's that proactive, reactive play. There were opportunities, Rebel, what you were just talking on. There were so many opportunities for C9 to make proactive plays earlier on, but instead they just kind of stalled it out. They just kind of waited it out, and especially with somebody like Fiora, and somebody as strong as Speedo, we've seen absolutely, you know, almost carry these games or help XU carry these games. You need to have pressure on that, especially when you're focusing on the top side of the map. So I definitely agree, Rebel. Maybe a little bit more focused toward the bottom side, because that dragon was particularly strong. Granted, you never know what the soul is going to be, and we have had plenty of ocean souls that really are not a huge priority. So it is dependent on what comes through on that RNG involved in Dragons. But at the same time, if that top side strategy, really good focus, really good early game from Lee Sin and Fiora didn't work out, something's got to change.
Well, good thing there is a Game 2 that will be coming up in just a few more moments here, and I kind of want to get a little bit of your last closing thoughts here for this draft, for Cloud9 Amateur. I don't want to say that the draft was necessarily bad, because I think the 1-3-1 had a lot of merit and value to it, and when, you know, Captain Shrimps and Speedo were kind of getting a little bit of a push from XU and his ability to find powerful counter ganks or just being able to outplay Winston in the early game, then you have the makings of that. I think the biggest problem came from towards the bottom lane, because Arrow and Daption were able to isolate Wixie at a couple moments, and whether Breezy was... they weren't communicating the safety kind of required to make sure that Wixie wasn't caught out by the duo lane from Wildcard Red, or if there just needs to be a slight change in what pairing goes for Ziggs, because like I said, I don't think necessarily anything was wrong from the draft. It's just in terms of execution and just not being able to protect Wixie as much as they could have. Now, going into this draft, I'm going to start with you, Rebel. If there are things that might change if Cloud9, because I'm not sure if we are getting red side or blue side from Cloud9 in this point, but if let's say that Cloud9 actually get red side here, you know that. Well, confirmation. Cloud9 will be red side, so we don't even have to dance around the bush.
I already wrote down everything. I already wrote down my rosters because I just assumed because of red priority right now. It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, jumping into that, I mean, we saw the Lee Sin priority come out from Lawrence. Do we even think that Wildcard Red is now going to give a respect ban or takeaway of that pick now that they're on blue side here, Rebel?
I think they have the ability to do that. On blue side, you're a little more open to take away things that are a bit more focused. I think that's one of the big ones, is just making sure that Lee Sin is not in the hands of anyone on the side of Cloud9. The other thing is, like, Cloud9 is always good at team fighting, and I feel like this draft, they played towards it a lot, and I feel like they'll play towards it a bunch. And teams aren't always going to be able to beat them at team fighting. Cloud9 is one of the surprising teams that I think can draft tools in multiple places. The big one that comes to mind is Rumble, to change what a composition will look like from the beginning to the end of the game that's also capable of team fighting while maintaining comfort in things. It's a very versatile type champion shift that they have on a handful of these champions. Lee Sin is another one that, like, you think would get banned away. But my thought process is, like, if C9 is going to be on red side, they have the ability to use some of these versatile picks to really throw a wrench into Wildcard's draft, knowing that they're going to focus on team fighting. Maybe they can get themselves tools. You think, like, Wixie playing something that's a bit more, like, far back in a fight, thinks of something like Jinx or Aphelios, especially if you get, like, Thresh alongside it, or something protective like Nautilus that was able to sit there, or even like new Tom Kench. That would be really cool as well. But something to defend backline, and then again, something like Rumble for, like, early game prowess and more team fighting potential really puts a bunch of power into C9's pocket that just transforms what this team fight looks like from the side of Wildcard Red.
I think for Kangas, just Bard.
Bard.
I'll just throw that out there.
Bard.
Throw that out there. Kangas wants a Bard, all right?
Chime time.
We did talk about a little bit of a Bard secret tech that Tonbrave from TSM Amateur brought out. If it gets thrown out, I'll let Kangas and Joshi break it down for us, as casters are once again ready, and the draft is ready to undergo for Game 2. We'll see if Wildcard Red are able to close it out 2-0, or Cloud9 Amateur make the ways of bringing us to a Game 3. Kangas and Joshi, take us away, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Rafa. Jolly, please don't play with my heart like that. I want to see it so bad. I love myself some Bard play, but I don't know if either of these teams will be pulling that one out. Regardless, though, we got Game 2 on our hands, Joshi, so we just heard from the analyst desk. Let's give our opinions of what we expect to happen this time around. Now, the sides have been swapped, of course, so that alone will provide some differences.
True, and I think it'll be interesting to see what they end up going for, because we saw the priority on the Lee Sin really coming through for Cloud9 early, and XU looked really good on it, but now it's probably going to get taken away or banned by Wildcard Red simply because of how effective he's been able to play this champion over the past couple of times we've seen it. So now that they're on red side, we're likely going to have to see XU adapt to a different champion, as worth noting that this Teemo ban actually isn't a real ban, right? They were docked one ban for discussing play during the pause in Game 1.
You're not supposed to do that, everybody. Make sure that you're not discussing game plans, especially in that crucial of a team fight. Now, I don't know to what extent, but that is what the ban was for. So it's Teemo, just because we assume nobody's going to pick Teemo. Unless, I don't know, maybe Cloud9 Amateurs playing
Speedo's
something
just
crazy
like, darn
right
it.
there. But they do still ban the Lee Sin. That makes a lot of sense.
It is going to be important here, as we were identifying that Cloud9, now that they're on the red side, have more counter picks that are available, and Wildcard will not have the same kind of freedom in determining what it is that they want to take off the table. Viego removed from Wildcard Red, but notably, we still have the Gwen available if Wildcard Red wants to first pick that or ban it away.
Let's see if they do. Wildcard Red. Kind of rough when you only have 2 bans because there's so many OP things right now. So they're looking at Breezy's champ pool. They're looking at the supports, taking away that Leona. Because that signals to me they're going to go for one of those solo laners. Maybe a jungler, but probably a solo laner here. And then they're taking away that 1-2 punch of like a Leona plus a priority bot laner. But the Xin Zhao ban, that means Gwen is still on the table.
We are seeing the Leona taken away instead of the Alistar, and honestly, I don't blame them. Breezy had a bit of a rough game last game, and so taking away a different champion, but they are going to be picking up Irelia, and we know that this can be flexed between the top lane and the mid lane, but it does mean that with the Leona ban, Thresh is still one of the best supports on the patch, and it looks like Cloud9 likely going to be hovering that, and maybe pairing it alongside something like an Aphelios, simply because it provides a lot of extra safety, an effective escape that a lot of immobile AD carries wouldn't otherwise have.
I mean, Ziggs is still on the table, and they liked that last time around, but if they lock in this Aphelios, then that means, yeah, most likely not going to be the Ziggs. So Wildcard, they could honestly be looking at that. I'm not fully sure if that's an Arrow champion. He really does like the AD carries. I mean, he played like one Seraphine game, so I'm not sure if they've been prepping this. When we think of Arrow, we talked about it on the desk. You know, LCK MVP, Season 7, Spring Split MVP as well. You know, this guy's been around. He's a pretty good League of Legends player, but Wildcard not opting to draft for Arrow yet. Nautilus and Diana are their picks.
A lot of diving threat already put onto Wixie's Aphelios between the Irelia, Diana, and the Nautilus. You have a guaranteed crowd control and then a couple of dashes that you can just go through a lot of the peel that might be available from Cloud9, and because of that, we're seeing Cloud9 opt into this Rumble. I'm expecting this is probably going to be going into the mid lane for Captain Shrimps, but it can be
exactly. Can be flex, but we see the Rumble as a Captain Shrimps pick. He has piloted this board. This is what he beat Doxa on. Absolutely stomped Doxa on in the group stages against TSM Amateur, who did eventually come back and win that series. But regardless, we think that this is probably a mid lane pick. It would be blind, though. So that's interesting to note because the Irelia could just go top lane. But let's see what the rest of the bans are. There we go. Ziggs taking off the table from Cloud9 Amateur. That makes a lot of sense. I don't think you want to give that one over. And then the LeBlanc as well, because that's a pretty rough matchup for the Rumble.
I think we're going to see a very flexible pick coming up from Cloud9 here because they are showing, you know, a bottom lane that we are very confident is a bottom lane. Though I have seen rumblings about an Aphelios top potentially coming through, but the Arcane, it's not
happening, Joshi.
Well, the Aphelios top isn't happening.
The Aphelios top isn't happening. I guess the Kayn is happening right now. We've seen a lot of Kayn in this tournament so far. We have not seen it really pick up a win. I believe it might be a 0% win rate on broadcast. I'd have to look at all the games played and everybody across the board. It's found some success in the LCS if you're looking at players like Acadian. But interesting priority on it right now. Wildcard Red, though, they opt for the Kalista, which has made it all the way through.
I'm getting word from production that XU is saying this is his first time Kayn, and honestly, I don't know if I've seen him play this on stage before. This is the first time coming out, and it has started emerging as a Diana counter pick.
Wow.
I don't really understand it, and apparently neither do Pabu nor Inero, as I found out from Kari not that long ago. So it is a surprising pick at this point, but it does lock Captain Shrimps in to be playing this Rumble.
It does, in fact, because especially with that Ornn lock-in. So, kind of a standard team fighting comp from Cloud9 Amateur, actually. They got a good front line for Aphelios to play behind, as well as the Thresh to help him reposition from all these diving threats of the Renekton, the Diana, the Aurelia, the Kalista, the Nautilus. Okay, everybody. Everybody from Wildcard
everybody
is going to be gutting for Wixie right now. That's a lot of pressure on this AD carry, this bot laner here for Cloud9 Amateur. Let's see if he's up for the task, because, again, you're up against Arrow. That is a hard task indeed. But the top lane matchup, we've seen this one a couple times so far. The Renekton versus Ornn. It's a tried and true classic.
It used to be much more common, but I'm worried for Cloud9 overall that their top half of the map might just get run over in the early game simply because they don't have as much mobility, they don't have as much ability to focus all of their abilities on the same target, whereas Wildcard Red have Brandini's Renekton, Winston's Diana, and Bradley's Irelia, and they can all just pick one person, jump on that person, and then they are dead.
Exactly. A lot of options there. And with their composition, you're just predicting that XU is going to be going for Red Cane here. I mean, the only range champion you can try and farm up would be Arrow on the bot side. But even then, I don't think you're going to be blowing anybody up in these fights, really. But that Red Cane does play more into that team fight, more into that front-to-back style the Cloud9 Amateur could be looking for. If you just distract Arrow, well then Wixie can mow through Winston, Bradley, Brandini with the peel of a Thresh and an Ornn. Could actually work out here for Cloud9 Amateur. And I'm taking a look, again, just because we have the history between these teams when they played against each other in Risen. It's fascinating to look back and see what worked for them back then, because the 2 wins that Cloud9 Amateur got, they weren't really team fighting types of compositions. It was the Camille in a side lane, split pushing it out. So it's interesting to see them go back towards something like this.
I think it kind of makes sense, though. Going up against the traditional, like, a bunch of melee threats coming in from Wildcard Red, if you can just create a zone where they're not allowed to move, with the Ornn, with the Rumble, it becomes very easy to play out this kind of fight. I don't want to use the word easy, I want to use the word straightforward here, right? Because even though, you know, you have the idea of what it is you're trying to execute on, that doesn't mean that Wildcard Red don't have tools in order to try and get to the backline, and if they take down Wixie, suddenly Cloud9 is missing a large part of their damage.
Yeah, it's pretty much all their damage. I mean, Captain Shrimps maybe can try and blow somebody else up with the Equalizer if he gets a good placement, but with all the mobility of a Renekton, Diana, Aurelia, and you don't have, like, anyone big to lock him down. The big combo is going to be the Call the Forge God plus the Equalizer on top of each other, but it's not like you have a Leona, not like you have a Nautilus to then keep them in that place. So yeah, Wixie, how can you position? I kind of would like to see him go for that Gale Force build, just for the extra bit of mobility. So let's see if he decides to go for that one. But everybody, we are ready. Loading on to Summoner's Rift for game number 2. Cloud9 Amateur taking on Wildcard Red. Wildcard Red currently up 1-0 in this series. They are looking to make the run all the way to the finals to take the gauntlet. All 3 Tier 2 tournament victories. That would solidify themselves undeniably as the top amateur team going into Proving Grounds. They've already qualified. Both of these teams have already qualified for Proving Grounds proper. So this is all about the rematch. Joshi, as we're loaded onto Summoner's Rift now, let's start to bring our attention here towards expectations for the early game right now. Cloud9, they have a team fighting composition. How are they going to get there?
They're really going to have to focus around trying to make sure that XU remains strong as he scares off the Duck to start the game. Not looking so good right now, XU, but he needs to be able to get these orbs. He needs to be able to find some skirmishes, even if they're not necessarily resulting in kills, so that he can get that evolution. It is so important to the way that XU wants to play this Kayn out. And if it is really his first time on stage now, we've got a lot to pay attention to, because it is not the easiest champion to play. You have very limited tools from what you're trying to do, and it's so focused on your ability to move around these fights, especially using your E. And so, honestly, I'm kind of impressed with how they're starting off. This looks practice, where Speedo just comes down and gets a little bit of extra damage, because he knows that he can't really do anything up against the Renekton level 1.
And just going to give over priority topside. That's the thing I was worried about with Cloud9 Amateur's composition, is how long it takes anything to come online. They don't really have any lanes that can play with prio early on. Maybe mid-side you could make an argument for, but it's going to be XU trying to stack up with lanes that could be in rough positions throughout the entire game. And Wildcard Red, they've shown if they can win through one lane, if they can win through all the lanes, they can close out games.
I think this is the problem that Cloud9 are going to have, because I agree with what you just brought up. It's hard for them to be aggressive. They might have some opportunities. Oh, okay, good. good play coming up from Breezy. They might have some opportunities around like the level 5 mark where Captain Shrimps gets, you know, pretty darn strong on the Rumble at that position. But he's also in a short lane. It's not like the Rumble top lane where you just, you know, use it to zone people off the wave. It's an Irelia in the mid lane. You can't zone them that far back. And again, we saw this before. XU spending a lot of time potentially looking for a gank, but not getting spotted. So even though he's losing time, Wildcard don't yet know that.
I still like the idea of the Kane going for those ganks, even if you're not going to get much for it. Just stacks. Just get yourself rolling a little bit faster. Ooh, Brandini heavily winning this top lane trade. Speedo very low on health. And now you're going to get spotted out here on your clear. They know that the blue buff is not there. Actually, I don't know if the ward's quite far enough over, but they're about to spot him.
Yeah, they see that it was still up, and now they see XU coming through. This isn't the same kind of thing. Diana should be winning this early on, especially when you have a Nautilus with you. So I'm a bit surprised that they're giving over. There must be a fight bottom.
Winston's joining up with Arrow on the bottom side just to make sure that they're winning that one. Speedo also still losing in this top lane matchup heavily. Brandini pushes him in, but it does look like the bottom scuttle goes over there to XU. Yeah, he picks that one up because... Wildcard Red got distracted looking at the shiny AD carry on the bot side. They're like, oh, remember the game plan, get the Aphelios. Kill him early.
Okay, this could be dangerous from Winston because I don't think he realizes he's doing this on vision. He does. He's going to be backing away, smells something wrong, and XU just comes over a bit too stinky, apparently. So we'll see if they want to continue fighting this because they're still playing for this bottom lane Gromp super heavily.
Yeah, wow. Wildcard Red do not want to give this over. They have the bot lane pushing towards them, and Arrow and Daption are giving that up so that Winston can get this. Hits level 4 off of it. Is now up 1 camp clear over XU. And Bradley in the 1v1. He actually loses to Captain Shrimps. First blood over to Rumble. I guess he just wins in the mid lane matchups. Whether it's Aurelia, whether it's a LeBlanc, don't matter. He will take it. Now, more plays. The Wildcard Red are on the bottom side here. Wixie waiting to take that Lantern till the opportune time and does get out.
Really smart play coming through from Wixie there to wait so he doesn't get interrupted by the Dredge line. But XU brawling it out with Bradley. He shouldn't go
Bradley
down.
Bradley teleported in. He's got flash. Can he get over the wall? He will. And Bradley not flashing to follow. He knows that Captain Shrimps is there, but interesting play from XU. I guess maybe he was trying to go for those Raptors and got caught out. Wasn't quite sure.
Nah, he was crashing the wave.
Uh-oh. Bot side Breezy. Whoa! That was a lot of burst damage coming in from Daption and Arrow. Kill picked up by Arrow. Sloppy play from Breezy.
Breezy has not been having a good day. We think a lot higher of Breezy than what he's showcasing us right now, but we see another fight top lane. Speedo.
Brandini up here. He's blocking Speedo right now. He's doing a lot of damage. And can stack up that Conqueror. Wow, this has been a very scrappy early game.
It has, but that's not it. You notice that right now, we said at the beginning, it's going to be difficult for Cloud9 to really build up opportunities in the lanes. And they're behind, you know, about a wave, 2 waves in basically every lane. This is the 1v1 that we saw earlier, and I'm expecting, honestly, that Bradley just, like, doesn't respect the passive damage that comes out from Rumble. You don't see it in the mid lane all that often, so Captain Shrimps just gets a really big chunk, and does he go back in?
Bradley's trying to stack up his passive on the wave right now. You see, he's got it stacking, and I think he probably just assumes,
hey, the passive.
Yeah.
Oof. Wow. Yeah, guys, Captain Shrimps plays this champion a lot. He understands how much damage the passive does, and I've been seeing a lot of strong mid laners not understand it.
He's going topside. Brandini, he's got a lot of mobility, though. I think Brandini's out of this one just fine. Yeah, no call to Forge God. Oh, now it's up for Speedo. He could look to set it up, but they don't pull the trigger.
There's so many members here. There's 4 members of Cloud9. I think this turns into a dive.
Ooh, they are looking for it now. Call the Forge God is coming through. XU's rolling up. Freezy's there. Can they save Speedo in time? They do. And now Brandini stuck on the wrong side of his lane. Kill over to XU and a successful dive topside.
Getting traded for this Cloud Dragon, though. Again, this is one of those first points. You gotta count to 4. We're all Jin on this blessed day of League of Legends, and it's giving over so much control of the bottom side of the map. Yes, you get the kill onto XU. Yes, he gets a little bit closer to transforming, but he's losing out on quite a bit of gold because Winston's gonna be taking this Gromp and maybe even gonna have time to go for the Wolves.
Again, that's both Gromps now over to Winston, and he will get the bottom scuttle this time around. Arrow also positioned aggressively with Daption, pushing Wixie off of that wave. That's another plate
Holy,
over
what?
Wildcard Reds. So they do end up with a 1K gold advantage.
Okay, well, we get to watch this up top once again, simply because it is the thing that just happened, and it's kind of hard for Brandini to be faulted for this. He thinks Speedo might be alone because he doesn't see anybody other than Rumble, who they now see again in the mid lane. So he feels like he can go for the 1v1, and it's true. He can go for the 1v1, but League of Legends is a game about how many friends you have, and Cloud9 definitely had more friends in the top side.
Now in the mid lane here, XU looking for a drive-by. Bradley spots him out. Winston's level 6, so XU's got to be very careful right now. He's fallen heavily behind in this jungle clear. They don't see Winston yet, now they will. He had Flash, doesn't want to hard commit to it though. Bradley's still stacking up the passive, but with Daption nearby, Captain Shrimps has to be very careful. Arrow's even level 6 right now, so Captain Shrimps could get dove.
Yeah, the gold lead coming in for Wildcard Red is big. It's a 15 CS in the top lane, 15 in
They're
the
going
oh
for
God.
it. Get Flash out of Captain
he
Shrimps.
gets out.
Arrow, that's a lot of damage with the Hail of Blades. But just a plate over to Wildcard.
Yeah, 15 CS everywhere, right? You know, up in the top lane, it's, you know, it's a little bit less now, but in the jungle, it's now 20. In the mid lane, it's over 30. In the bottom lane, it's about 20. So Wildcard is building leads everywhere, and this is one of their major win conditions, is just run over the early game so that Wildcard Red can't get to orange scaling. They can't get to the point where Aphelios is a threat. So you're seeing that Wixie and Breezy have to stand so far back from this wave because they have no vision control. They won't know where the jungler is, and if you take a look at the river, there's so many wards there from Wildcard Red, so they will know if XU shows up.
It's a dangerous gambit to say, hey, we're going to sacrifice the early game and play for late game against Wildcard Red, because Wildcard Red have shown themselves to be a team that when they get those early leads, they can just absolutely stomp you and hard snowball those leads into bigger advantages. They're currently 1,500 up right now. Arrow is looking at XU right now in this brush. XU does not realize he's spotted. Daption's coming up. Fate's Call's available for Arrow. He's got the mana for it. Is Captain Shrimp's going to spot the side? He doesn't even go for it. XU hits level 6. He's looking to get into the wall. Daption locks him down before he can. Oh, XU. He just wanted level 6.
The patience, though, from Arrow is so impressive. Doesn't go for the fight right away. And remember, for Kayn, like, if you start taking damage as you're starting to run through the wall, your time is severely limited. I think you're capped at, like, 1, maybe 2 seconds once you start taking damage in the wall. So he just gets popped right on out on the wrong side. Needed to flash almost instantly and gives over a kill. And it's 2,000 gold at only 9.5 minutes with not a lot of kills getting picked up from Wildcard. This is just them being better laners overall, with winning matchups everywhere.
Exactly. Now a 35 CS advantage to Bradley in this mid lane with the wave frozen in front of him. We haven't really seen the Rumble accomplish much. I'm just going to say it. The idea of this pick, try and put... it's a suppose. You know what? Yes. Yeah, how shame on me for forgetting that.
It's not nothing.
But yeah, that's not nothing. You're right. But hasn't gotten out of lane to help affect other lanes like we were expecting as we get a replay of this. Yeah, XU. Daption blocking him.
Bonking him on the head. Little field mouse. XU trying to get out. And it's not the same kind of effectiveness as we were seeing in the Lee Sin. He's still got a lot of game left to play, but it's very tough. He's going to be zoned away from his own Raptor camp now from Winston and Bradley.
Oh, Bradley. Wait, he's just going to die again? Okay! I think Captain can hear me. He was like, how's this? If I'm not being impactful enough for you. Another solo kill to Captain Shrimps.
Man, I feel like we see this so much. Hold up.
No Fate's Call. No Callista even nearby. It's just Winston there. Yeah, okay. This is huge for Cloud9.
This is a lot of gold. This is a lot of tempo that they're earning simply because Captain Shrimps is once again surprising people with how much damage that his Rumble actually does. XU coming down is faster than Daption, but doesn't have the wave in a great spot just quite yet. Not going to be able to go for this dive, and it does mean that Arrow is going to survive, but the CS lead bottom lane has largely been equalized. It was about 20 earlier, now it's only about 10. So that's a big difference that Wixie and Brazy have been able to turn on its head when Daption leaves.
Let's take a look at the gold if producers can pull that up for us, because all those plates also going over to Wixie. Yeah, only a 400 differential now between them. So even though Arrow has 2 kills on the Callista early game, it's not like it's that doomed here for Wixie. The primary win condition, remember, for Cloud9 Amateurs composition, they need this Aphelios to output damage in these team fights with this kind of front-to-back team fighting composition. Although, that mid lane, Captain Shrimps, despite being 30 CS down, he's also dead even because of the solo kills that he got.
Okay. Well, Wildcard Red are doing a better job at counting than Cloud9 is, and they're going to be getting themselves a second dragon here. The Cloud Dragon, the Mountain Dragon, and hey, we're going to be granted another Infernal Soul game today, Kingus. We're going to see a lot more damage coming through relatively soon. And Wildcard, already halfway to picking up the Infernal Soul, are going to be very happy with this position so far.
And the thing about last time is Cloud9 were able to delay that a little bit because they had a comp that could fight them early on. They can't really do that with this comp, though.
Am I crazy? They did pick up another dragon, right?
Yes.
Or is that... Okay.
Should be, yeah, because the terrain has changed, so it is the Infernal Soul. I was gonna say we got the
okay. There we go. There we go.
Production.
Producers and us agree now. Yep. Sometimes you have to go back and remind yourselves, like, was that this game? Was that the previous game? But we do see both dragons now on the field, and Speedo getting jumped on. Winston's close.
He's doing a lot of damage, and yeah, Winston's looking for it, but Warren is really tough to chase down, especially when he's got the tabby or the plated steel caps along with that bramble vest and even extra cloth armor, opting heavily into armor just to survive Brandini, but he could get dove.
True. It looks like he's backing away. One fun fact about Ornn, you know, because he gets 10% bonus HP, he might get dove, so we'll get back to that potentially. But he gets 10% bonus HP and 10% armor and MR. So the way that the math actually works is for the amount of items that Ornn builds, he is actually just 21% tankier than he has any right to be relative to the items that he buys. So it's deceptively difficult to kill an Ornn simply because of how much extra he gets from his gold efficiency in items. So they're going to be backing away, and now we might get our first real team fight, and Cloud9 might be able to show off the prowess with these champions.
They don't have the Mythic yet on Wixie, but he is in the mid lane. Not able to lock down the Rift Herald or kill it before the charge. So that's just plate gold over to Wildcard Red. But crucially, that's not the turret cracked. If that mid turret goes down, that really opens Bradley up on the map and allows him to get out of lane that much quicker, because he has been kind of stuck here still against Captain Shrimps, and he's not looking to be stuck against a Rumble that has solo killed him twice.
I think it's okay for Bradley, though, right? He's still even in the gold, so he can start roaming around, but this is part of why I love, like, Ziggs games, simply because the dynamism isn't quite here in this game, because people are kind of stuck in their lanes really heavily. You don't get the turrets going down as quickly, you don't get the same kind of, like, safety all over the map, and so the game is kind of just holding here where everybody's currently still in their lanes, and Wildcard have to be happy with this because up until very recently they were winning very heavily in terms of the CS across all the maps, or across all the lanes, and should be able to convert that into another advantage as we get closer and closer to the third dragon of the game.
I mean, you say they should be happy. I also feel like Cloud9 Amateur might be happy with this game state, because they're like, hey, sweet, it's not that accelerated. Yeah, we've given over 2 dragons, but nothing's really blown up right now as they look to make a play onto Brandini top side. Teleport comes in, though. Winston's here. The re-engage from Wildcard Red. And Cloud9 Amateur, they were not looking for that kind of play. Winston will take down Speedo, as well as XU Folly, and Captain Shrimps is here, but he's stunned under the turret. Brandini with the plays. That's 3 kills over to Wildcard Red.
Brutal. Cloud9 try and break the stalemate with not a lot going on in the lanes, and then suddenly we see the teleport come through. Winston reads it beautifully. They're ready for this big fight. Everybody comes through, and now they're diving bottom lane.
Oh, Arrow wants some of this as well. They're like, hey, action topside. We feel left out. They're looking to go past the turret there, and not getting the better for it, but they will still crack the top turret and the mid. Huge gold swings to Wildcard.
This is the wild card. A lot of people were kind of expecting this. This is the wild card that was dominating the other tournaments and is now starting to just exert their will over the game. We can take a look at this again, but notice the fact that there is no teleport on Captain Shrimp's Rumble, whereas there is a teleport from Bradley's Irelia, so he's able to get here significantly faster. This normally takes about 25 seconds to get from the mid lane to the top lane, and it's cut down to 4 seconds for Bradley. That's 20 seconds where he's able to be here before Captain Shrimps can really interact, and just having the extra time of the 3v2 is going to result in this big lead. They get all 3 kills as people trickle in, and then they can move Renekton into the mid lane to pick up the mid lane turret as well.
Yeah, something that we hadn't really highlighted as we see the rest of the 2v2 that doesn't result in kills is the fact that Captain Shrimp's taken Ignite is for lane. It's so that he can get those solo kills. And he got 2, but we see what a teleport does for a team. You can make these cross-map plays and defensive plays, because it was Cloud9 that actually started that one up. But actually, Cloud9 now can play again onto the top side, giving over the Dragon. They're not even going to contest this one, so this will be third over to Wildcard Red. They look to maybe dive Bradley.
Uh-oh. Okay, Speedo, yeah. You have to remember that because he has both the Bramble and
this is really awkward.
Cinder. Yeah, he has to do something, but he would just naturally tank the
XU can get out, but Speedo can't. So, okay, Speedo gets the ultimate, but he's just going to die. Yeah, XU can't do anything but watch. Still not even Red Kane. That was an awkward position for Speedo to be in.
This is crumbling, Kingist. We're losing a lot of opportunity for Cloud9 to bring this game back into the fold. They have a long time to wait before they start getting the Ornn items to come through, before he gets the levels necessary to start upgrading people and artificially increasing their effective gold. And they're losing across the map. The only person who might be, like, maybe still ahead is Captain Shrimp.
If we can... Oh, okay. Arrow's looking for the engaged bot side as there's also a fight on the Herald, and they'll catch him. Okay, Wixie's down. Both Summoner spells used. If we can jump to the Herald now to see what's happening here. Breezy hits a death sentence. That's actually huge. Winston, stopwatch, keeps him alive.
No equalizer.
And he's still healing up off of the Herald. They get the Rift Herald. They get XU. Wildcard Red just can't lose anything right now. Kills bot side, kills on the Herald, and the objective picked up. They are massively in the lead with 8,000 gold. They'll even go for this red buff. Captain Shrimps is still around though. Winston, you don't have the smite anymore. It does just come up. Okay, he smites it away. Can he even take the 1v1 against Captain Shrimps? He's doing a lot of damage. Breezy's here. Flash, play. Hasn't thrown the death sentence yet, but Captain Shrimps will pick up the kill. Says thanks for the red buff.
Does pick it up, so that is nice, but it feels like this curveball that Cloud9 were trying to throw Wildcard, they are knocking it out of the park as we get to watch this once again. This is part of why Kalista plus any engage support is so dangerous, because it gives you such a long engage range, right? Just look at how far they're able to get. He even uses the Gale Force to try and leave and still gets caught. And we were already looking at the Kalista coming in from Arrow as being this big potential deciding factor due to how chaotic some of these games and some of these fights could really be. And on the other side of the map, as you said, XU still not transformed yet, doesn't have the damage necessary, isn't sustaining, doesn't really do a whole lot on this Kayn, and the only reason why this even looks okay is because Winston overextends for a red buff.
Yeah, Captain Shrimps picks up another kill now, 3-1. Also, tiny little note on that bottom play. It was from that earlier 2v2 scrap that did amount to kills, but Daption got a ward down. And because of that ward, they could see that Wixie stuck around and then go for that play. Really cool small note there. Happy to see Vision used to such success here for Wildcard Red. 3 dragons, souls up in 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Baron in 20 seconds itself. And with this kind of gold lead, 8K in the lead right now. We're at 7.5. They can also make a pick on a Breezy. I was trying to set up the next play, but it's already happening. Equalizer down. Winston, Bradley taking a lot of damage. Breezy's still alive, but Daption over the wall now. Arrow's here too. A double kill to Bradley, and even with the 3-man Ornn ultimate, I don't think it's going to be enough. Wixie's joined in, but no! His front line's already dead!
Oh no, look at anybody!
Speedo's going to go down a full team fight ace, 5-0 over to Wildcard.
Inhibitor is going to be cracked off of this one, Kingus. They're dropping this. They're getting so much, and they're also rotating to the Baron. It's a clean ace, and they're going to get a lot off of it. We'll see if the Rift Herald by itself can actually take down the structure, because Bradley going to instead walk over to this Baron and contribute what he can to this fight. But there's so much that goes well here for Cloud9 in terms of what they're potentially looking for. XU starts his time by hitting this, but look at how long Bradley actually stands on top of this. And Winston too, it just doesn't do that much damage right now. Speedo gets another 3-man ultimate. They're getting everything they can ask for, and they're still
Bradley's
losing.
in a 1v3! Bradley's in a 1v3! And he still takes down XU. I don't even know how that started, but he's looking for more. He gets a double kill. He's on the equalizer, but it doesn't matter. Captain Shrimp's looking for it. He does get the shutdown, but Brandini's joined in. The Crocodile picks up a double for himself. Locked under the turret by Speedo, but he's out. Yeah, wow, Wildcard Red's mid laner, Bradley, styling on Cloud9 Amateur right now.
6-3-7, and it's happening at a terrible time. Captain Shrimps is not going to be able to walk out to this dragon in time, so we're gonna see Wildcard Red. They get this turret, maybe one more turret, and then they can back away. We see the picture-in-picture. I think this is the replay where we see Bradley getting this big fight, and it looks potentially good because they just have the 3v1, but he's like, haha, I'm still Irelia. You're dead, and now you're dead.
Yeah, with the Gore Drinker, too. Yeah, he's getting revenge for how Laney Phase went now. Call the Forge God onto Winston, the knockup, double for Speedo. Death sentence, lots of CC, and Wixie's untouched so far. He takes a huge chunk of damage though, and they don't have enough. Wildcard Red are just too big right now. XU got his evolution just in time to watch the final gray screen before they lose the game.
Wow.
A triple kill to Bradley, and Wildcard Red yet again making their way into the semifinals, chasing that three-peat victory. The Tier 2 Gauntlet dream stays alive. Wildcard Red take down Cloud9 Amateur.
Game 1 looked competitive, but Game 2 was all Wildcard. They've really stacked the deck on this one, King. It says it just looks like there's nothing left for Cloud9 to do, and this was our best competitor previously. Now they're looking for an opportunity to just run, as you said, pick up the Grand Slam with one of the top teams already out of the way. Who's going to be able to come up against Wildcard and push them to a Game 5 next? Or are they just going to prove once and for all that there is nobody that compares to them in Amateur?
It's going to be tough after a performance like that. Game 1 was close. We'll give it to Cloud9 Amateur. They were fighting. They were making Wildcard Red work for it. And Wildcard Red were on the back foot for most of that game. But then if you go for a late game focused team fight comp with no priority lanes and a Kayn that can't really do anything in the early game, it's like, what do you expect? Wildcard Red, they've showed us what they can do if you give them this kind of composition. Oh man, what a game. Joshi, that's going to be it for our run here for EGL. It's been a pleasure having you on the desk with me, man, for all these crazy stories, the crazy games. We had all last week and now a couple games this week. So what are your thoughts, final closing thoughts on how the event's shaking up so far?
I mean, we're still seeing so much Amateur going through. No matter what we do, it always feels like there's upsets as teams are showing up. Other teams are looking for their way to continue improving, and this was no different, right? Cloud9 still had a very competitive game with what everybody's looking at as a top amateur team. We got a lot more League of Legends left to play. So we have another series coming up too with TJ and Cubby. You're not going to want to miss it, but for now, I just want to say I had a great time. Thanks for bringing us onto the EGL desk, and continue watching Amateur. It's a great scene. We got lots of talent coming up.
And continue watching throughout the day, because you're right, we got another series shaking out after this. We're going to send it over to the analyst desk, though, to break down what happened in this series and to further congratulate Wildcard Red. So Rafa and the desk, take it away.
Thanks, Kangas and Joshi, and wonderful stuff on commentating the first series of the day. That will do it for Kangas and Joshi as they make their departure from EGL. And TGA and Cubby will be coming in for our second series of the day. But one thing I wanted to point out, Jolly and Rebel, is before we get any further, we need to give a proper salute and goodbye to Kangas and Josh here. If I can just pull up Exhibit A real quick. When you get Kangas and Josh, a big brain like Joshi, and powerful flexing arms like Kangas, who is literally just Braum, you get this, which is the power of wide flex Joshi right here, which, I mean, my goodness, this if Kangas and Joshi had a child, this would be the offspring right here, and I just want a moment for the audience to just admire. And you know what, I'm going to try to step out of frame because this is all about wide Joshi right now.
Oh my goodness. Did you do this yourself, Rafa?
Yes. I made the Photoshop adjustment as necessary, as I will pull down the exhibit. Going down.
His next outfit is going to be this one.
Yes.
So yeah, we've decided, and he has to carry a Poro around everywhere with him as well. So Kangas, get to working on the tattoos, I suppose, and I'll start the paulders.
Have you seen his Braum cosplay transformation video? Because that's something you should actually check out.
Yes.
That is actually an
amazing
piece of
worth
content.
everyone checking out, whether or not you like Braum. And if you don't, I don't want to hear about it.
How can you not like Braum?
Yeah.
The heart is the strongest muscle. I'm like,
Right?
Mother
always said, don't lose. Like, he's just so happy.
And he's so happy, he's so strong, and he's so wholesome. He is a big, strong guy, but he's got a gentle heart. And I think that's, that's what everyone wants in this world. Now, Wildcard Red, let's... We're not going to take too long with this series because this game 2 was so dominating, and I'm not really going to say that we didn't expect it, because we did kind of expect it. Cloud9 Amateur was the one that gave us a little bit of surprise in how they opened game 1, but the Lee Sin being taken away, and then they went for the Kayn pick. I want to bring up something. Apparently, we don't know if XU was memeing or not, but there was comms saying, first time Kayn, no joke. So, considering that they're all... Considering Wildcard Red and Cloud9 Amateur are already slotting through to the Proving Grounds tournament in September, maybe Cloud9 Amateur wanted to limit test a little bit. In theory, you have this massive team fighting composition, but Wildcard Red just never let them get there in the first place.
Nah, they had a bunch of champions that were capable of skirmishing early, which was the biggest problem for me, because it's like, okay, if you're on the side of Cloud9, they say, okay, we're going to go for a later game team fight. We're going to try to set up the 5-on-5, take challenges into you, and that was their bet. And then they draft Kayn, which is like an early skirmishing champion, because you need to get souls and stuff, and we talked about it a couple of times. Outside of Captain Shrimps, they weren't able to find much early. That bot lane got unleashed upon everybody on the map, which was terrible for C9. And the worst of all of it, Kayn didn't get to skirmish and didn't have a transformation until 18 minutes into the game. Like, it's disaster top to bottom. So it was just too hard of a snowball from a team that's already good at team fighting, where Wildcard, like, they know how to play this. They know exactly how to put their pieces together. C9 said, we're going to play your game, and Wildcard was not having any of it. Not.
And there were a couple of picks I wish I had seen. Speedo locked in the Ornn. I would have loved to see Speedo's Gnar going into that Renekton. That would have been spectacular, giving them a little bit more skirmish opportunities as well, potentially the extra movement for that Kayn, for XU to be able to kind of maybe involve themselves. So, it definitely does feel as though Wildcard, they're just that little much of a step ahead in terms of the cohesion of the team overall, which is to be expected based on how much this team has really accomplished over the last couple of months.
Yeah, not to take anything away from Wildcard Red, I mean, they came out as the better team going into the series, right? And Cloud9 Amateur, we've definitely seen a ton of growth and development from this roster over, but, Wildcard Red, they are going for that Grand Slam, and they are still en route. And off stream, we actually got our other confirmed semifinalists that will be taking on Wildcard Red, as our next exhibit is actually going to be 100 Thieves next, as these guys 2-0 stopped Supernova. I mean, like, if Rebel, if you want to read some of the results and some of the KDA scores, I know you were kind of fanboying over Young Mid's Aurelia and one of the in the playoffs results.
Yeah, I got to catch the end of game number 1, and I think at 29 minutes, the score was something like 22-6, with everybody having a positive KDA. And in game 2, I wasn't able to do too much because we were busy watching, of course, Wildcard versus C9. But I was able to catch that, I think, somewhere in the 10 to 15 minute range. It was 6-0 with a 4K gold advantage. To say that it was a dominating victory, I don't think is enough. I'm going to introduce you to the word obliterated, because I think that's the only way to describe how dominating that 100 Thieves was able to be over top of Supernova. So this excites me a lot, because 100 Thieves finally stepping into just like being obscenely good, which is what we've wanted for them all split, now get to test their mettle against our best team, who has just gone undefeated for the most part, barring one series out of Risen. And so this is the testament. You beat Wildcard Red, 100 Thieves is in it to win it. Like, that's the team to beat from that point on, because now we see excitement. And Wildcard get a testament against now what is a young stud team. So I'm excited to see that too.
For 100 Thieves next, I mean, that between other LCS amateur teams that have kind of risen up, something that me and Jolly have been really excited about, just to see the growth from players in both of these rosters. And then like on the other side of the bracket as well, TSM Amateur, a newer LCS amateur team that is, during Challengers Uprising didn't show the best results. Risen also didn't manage to get out of the groups, but then EGL, first seed, overtaking Cloud9 Amateur. And while Cloud9 Amateur in this game 2 against Wildcard Red didn't look as formidable against Wildcard Red. The game one, still showing signs of brightness and some marks of brilliance here. TSM Amateur will be taking on Evil Geniuses Prodigies in our next upcoming series, where TJ and Cubby will be taking over the action. And as we get ready to close out for an extended break until we get ready for that series later on in the day, I do want to point out that wonderful Joshi picture. I accidentally took credit for it, and it was my mistake. It's actually to Smack's cast. So
Smacks did that to you.
He did
you wrong.
Hey, I need a full screen on the message here.
I just all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, buddy. It's I did not ill-intentionally try to take credit. It was just kind of put on the spot, and I was like, I guess so, because I don't remember how I got the image into my folder. So I was like, I must have done it, but immediately Smack started pinging me. He's like, how dare you take credit for my work? It's like, don't worry, I will give you I will give you credit.
You get your own little template. You get a sorry template screen. There you go, Smacks. All is forgiven.
All is forgiven. We all love Smacks. So give Smacks Cast some love in the chat if he is in there chilling, or on Twitter, as he has been a wonderful Wild Rift trio partner along with Alec Battery as well. So as we are wrapping up this first series, we're going to be taking a little bit of time away. I'm not sure how many minutes we'll be taking until we get ready, about 10-15 minutes here, as we take an extended break. Make sure to take some time, folks, to get up and stretch, get some food in your system, maybe some drinks. Always got to stay hydrated, even in the hot summer sun here, as you don't want to get your throat too dry. As we'll definitely be taking a break as well. But we'll see you in a few, ladies and gentlemen.